and gentlemen, let's go. Let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Gordon. The ball is out and recovered by Seattle. Seattle takes over at their 10.
Broncos country, let's ride.
They get it away. They hand to Williams. Ball comes out. Recovered by Seattle.
Broncos country, let's ride.
From 64, McManus missed it. And the Seahawks are going to win this game.
Broncos country, let's ride.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
What a crazy first week. As it wraps up last night, what a crazy first week in the NFL. 16 games, and you had 10 of the 16 come down to the final possession, to the final, minute. I didn't look at every single week last year because we were focused so much on what the Chiefs were doing, good and bad, indifferent, to see if that's something that happened every week last year. But it just felt like this one was different. Maybe we were missing NFL football. But the witching hour on Sunday, in that noon window, where 6 of the 9 games all came down to field goals, the last-minute overtime games, missed field goals, craziness, turnovers late, and it was just all over the place. At the same time, you're getting ready for the Chiefs game, and the Steelers and Bengals go into, the game so deep in the game that the Chiefs have 14 points on the board. It's 14-0 by the time the rest of the country joined the whoever was getting that game. I guess it was everybody's national game, but getting Chiefs and Cardinals, it was 14-0. You missed some of the brilliance already from Patrick Mahomes by that time because you were watching missed field goals and guys running around like chickens with their heads cut off and not knowing how to play football or kick field goals, whatever. And then last night, we cap it off by 30 seconds off the clock and then calling timeout to then kick a 64-yard field goal and to hear Nathaniel Hackett say, no, that was the spot we were wanting to get to. Yeah, I mean, on 3rd and 14, we're thinking maybe 2 plays, but once Javonte made a hell of a play and he got there, that was the spot we were looking for. And once he got there, that was what we wanted to do, was kick the field goal of 64 yards and wasting 30 seconds and then calling a timeout with not even going up there to try to draw him off sides or anything. It was just a cluster last night. And you hate to see it. You just hate to see it in a game last night like that. You paid how many millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in draft picks so that you can have a quarterback drive somewhat down the field and settle for a 64-yard field goal with 50 seconds on the clock, and you still had 3 timeouts.
Believe it was a couple of firsts, a couple of seconds, and $250 million for Brandon McManus.
Let's ride.
The Broncos gave us a gift last night, Jason. They gave the whole world a gift last night. This is the easiest Tuesday in sports media history.
I love one of the tweets that came out after Melvin Gordon fumbled at the goal line, and it said, Pete Carroll, quote, "That's why you throw there." It was great. And then Javonte Williams fumbles at the goal line. What is going on?
After the Melvin Gordon fumble, I follow a lot of Broncos people on Twitter, obviously. Yeah. Some of them are colleagues, some of them just to know what's going on in the AFC West, etc. Yeah. And so one guy, immediately after the Melvin Gordon fumble, went, that's got to be Javonte. It's got to be.
I thought the same thing.
They get down to the goal line again. The same guy tweets, just give it to Javonte twice. First touch, boom! Ball's going the other direction. I had to respond to him and say, hey, man, I am genuinely sorry for what you're going through right now. Because you've been right. And they have let you down.
Imagine, and I know the Javonte fumble was different than the Melvin Gordon one, because Melvin Gordon didn't get hit right after he grabbed the football and had it knocked away as he was still trying to put the football away. So that wasn't the case with Javonte. But imagine having those two running backs, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and on 4th and 1 you go, well, we're trying to give a 50-50 split, so it's Melvin Gordon's turn, so I guess we'll just stick with him, and we haven't gotten to the end zone the last couple of tries with him, but I guess we'll just stick here at 4th and 1 from the goal line instead of Javonte Williams, who led the league last year in yards after contact and broke the most tackles and is really, really difficult to bring down and is a tough runner. But we want to split the carry, so it's got to be 50-50. I guess we'll stay. Imagine having Javonte Williams and putting him on the sideline to watch Melvin Gordon do that, who does fumble quite a lot.
Imagine having Russell Wilson and putting him on the sidelines to watch Brandon McManus do that.
That as well, yes.
It wasn't a 52-yard field goal and then 4th and 9.
Uh-huh.
It was 4th and mid from 60-plus yards out. And then I mean, the cherry on the top of what I'm going to start calling the toddler timeouts.
Oh my goodness,
I'm not ready to go in yet. I'm not ready to stop playing. I want to keep playing.
I don't want to go.
You can't make me go. You can't make me go to bed.
I don't want to go to bed.
It's Monday night. There's football on. I want to watch it.
You said I could stay up and watch something. That was a half hour ago.
I want to keep watching the football game.
Yes, I've got timeouts. Timeout. Well, you're in timeout. And then complaining with the official that there should be more time on the clock when you called a timeout. Like, what are you doing, man?
Coach, use your timeouts when you have the effing football
I mean, it's
and a quarterback. They had like a minute, it was like a minute 10, a minute 11 or something when they snapped the ball on what ended up being their final offensive play.
With 3 timeouts.
Or one after that with 3 timeouts in their pocket. I've never hurt myself jumping off a coach's bandwagon faster and harder than I did with Hackett last night. I pulled a hammy. I was like, nope, this guy's not it, and I hurt myself.
I saw a lot of I follow a lot of Broncos people as well. And same thing with Chargers and Raiders and things like that. Although that following has switched from Oakland/San Francisco to now Vegas in following those. But boy, I saw a lot of the immediate, quick, easy shade of Nathaniel Can't Hackett.
Oh.
I mean, that's an obvious one, right? Right out of the gate, like the first game of the year with the new coach, and you've already got Broncos fans calling him Nathaniel Can't. Nathaniel Can't Hackett. Whew, man.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Let's ride.
I can't believe nobody put that in the system yet.
Will you download the Geno Smith clip that I sent you last night? Because I just want to get the side by side of the 2 quarterbacks last night. Not only did Geno Smith genuinely play a little bit of a better football game.
He was better.
He was better. Russ got let down by his teammates for the fumbles we just talked about. Look, this isn't all on him.
That's fine, but I don't think Russ was all that good.
No,
I think
absolutely.
Troy Aikman pointed out, and randomly he made a couple of interesting points, which is always good.
Troy was in his bag last night also.
God. He pointed out a couple of times where it's like he's open right now, but Russ hasn't thrown it yet.
Yeah.
And then he throws it late and it's knocked away. And he's like, you gotta release the ball, man. You gotta throw it right then. He's open. He's got 2 steps, and the guy caught up with him. Same thing with
their only highlight was one of those moments.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. That's what I was trying to think of the other one.
Emergency break to stop and turn around and catch that ball.
Right. So I don't think Russ played. I thought Geno Smith was dropping some dimes in that game, man. That was,
100%.
Yeah, I saw one team that was pumped and ready to go to say, you know what, we're going to prove the world wrong. And I saw one team that was like, yeah, we're good. We're one of the better teams. We're going to come in here and beat this team. We got Russ now. We're fine. We're one of the big dogs in the AFC West, and the AFC West is amazing. And we're going to go show these Seahawks without Russell Wilson, you know, what kind of team we are.
If an alien came to Earth last night and they didn't know any of the narratives going into that game, every single person, every alien would have left going, well, the Seahawks. That Seahawks team's pretty good. Those Broncos are fraudulent. But can we get a little let's ride and then also Geno Beards? Because this is also not just the on-field performance, but the cornball nature of Russell Wilson. I don't know if it was ever more evident in contrast to Geno Smith being the coolest he's ever been.
Which one do we want first?
Either one is fine. Just hit me with
Broncos
one.
country, let's ride.
So that's Russell Wilson.
They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though.
I love that
That's
line.
the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
Geno post-game. They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though.
I didn't write back, though.
Oh!
I love that line.
Bars!
Ryan Clark was like...
Bars!
Ryan Clark must have been on Cloud 9 last night with SVP in the Sports Center with that line. And he was like, he even said, when ESPN tries to fire me and write me, I'm not going to write back either. I won't write back either when they try to write me off here at ESPN. Not going to happen. And Ryan Clark did a really good job of breaking down some of the really impressive plays from Geno Smith. I thought he was the better quarterback on the field last night, and I didn't think I'd ever say that with Geno Smith and Russell Wilson. So I mean,
incredible.
It was unreal. Did you watch ESPN or did you watch the Manning cast?
Last year, I was almost completely a Manning cast guy, but I was just really wanting to watch this football game, and also wanted to see what Buck and Aikman looked like in Monday night. So I never went to the Manning cast last night, which is definitely the first time I've just skipped it on it completely.
I'll be honest. It's been so long without football and Monday Night Football. Forgot. I mean, we were doing many other things. You know, the game started at 7:15. We were still at the park when the game started. I got home. We did, bath and bedtime and everything. And then when I, joined I was watching on my phone, right, and keeping up with it. And then, joined the game. And I'm doing stuff for the show today while the game's in the background. And I just have it on ESPN. Right. And I'm not on Twitter or anything. So I'm not seeing people tweet about the Manning cast, right? So I'm not going on Twitter and doing any of those things. And then this morning, I'm hearing all the Manning-cast. I'm like, oh, that's right. The Manning-cast was like, I would have much rather watched that than Aikman and Buck. Buck's fine, but man, Aikman, 4th and 1 here at the goal line. Analytics say to go for it if you're into that sort of thing.
If you're into that sort of thing. I think it was Ben Solak who tweeted that Troy Aikman somehow made analytics kink shaming. It's like, well, yeah, if you're one of those sickos who's into that kind of thing, it's like, no, Troy, like it's just that one was one of my favorites because
it's like all of a sudden analytics becomes dominatrix.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whoosh. Like if you're what are we doing?
Whips and chains, whistles, yo-yos. I don't know. My grandmother riding down in her bicycle going along at the same time. It was crazy. You don't get that movie reference, but please continue.
Didn't get it. I figured it was a reference though. Sometimes I can tell with your intonation, but sometimes that's about all I get information wise. It was just it is hilarious to me that like, hey, keep your offense on the field and smack them in the mouth is like the nerd position. Like that is how that should have been. Dan Campbell should be going for every 4th down because it's all about grit. Like why is 4th and short not a grit thing to do also? Yeah. That's one whole thing. Aikman got in on let Geno cook like an hour and a half after everyone on Twitter, including myself, had made that joke. Troy was in prime form.
He doesn't follow you.
No, that's true. He does occasionally find my work though.
I did appreciate that.
I get tagged every time Troy Aikman does anything.
I bet. I did appreciate that the win probability of going for it on 4th and 5 was like 36%.
Yeah.
The win probability of kicking the field goal was 7%. So the analytics obviously said go for it on 4th and 5.
That sort of thing.
And yet Troy and Joe Buck were also the same way, saying, "You're kicking it here? Yeah, crazy. Even the analytics say you should go for this on 4th and 5. I don't know. Maybe if you're into that sort of thing with the analytics, sometimes the analytics and just the the scouts way, the just my eye tells me what I see, and that's the way I'm going to set. Sometimes they're all in agreement, which was last night outside of the Denver Broncos and their coaching staff, and McManus apparently. A 64-yard attempt as we did it, guys. We got exactly where we wanted to go, 64 yards with 50 seconds left and 3 timeouts.
Maybe Nate Hackett thought they were in Denver and like they had altitude with him. I'm not sure. You mentioning the SVP sort of after game show, I don't know how to formulate that, with it being Buck and Aikman. I didn't stick around to see what Ryan Clark said, but I was watching with Buck and Aikman, and it kind of came full circle with the last sequence there because it was all very strange in real time. And I honestly think that Buck and Aikman were like genuinely caught off guard because they put the offense out there, they called the timeout, and then they went to a studio shot or to the booth shot of Buck and Aikman on the broadcast. So they're like looking down the lens, they're talking in the booth, they're on camera, and then the next shot is Brandon McManus like getting set. And they're like, well, hold on. Now the kicker's out here, and the kick is up, and it's no good. What happened? And then Aikman's like, well, you want to give your kicker a shot, I guess. And then 10 minutes later, when they're on TV again and everything is kind of settled, they've like watched the replay and figured out what happened. It seemed like at that point, it kind of thudded of, oh, that was insane. Like that was certifiable. That was completely bonkers. But I don't think they translated that in real time because I think they were so surprised by the Broncos doing the craziest possible thing there.
So Thursday we know is important. We know is huge because you want to win the games at home. But in a season where we have talked so much about how close it's going to be, and within the margins might be the difference between making the playoffs, missing the playoffs. 14 out of 16 teams have playoff potential. 15 out of 16 probably think they're a playoff team or have a chance of making the playoffs. Throw in Jacksonville. Houston, I don't know, after the tie against Indianapolis, probably thinking, can we win the division? Tennessee lost at home to the Giants. We tied the team that a lot of people picked to win the division. And we were up by 17 in the fourth quarter. So can we, do that? Maybe they have playoff aspirations as well. But in a season where we've talked so much about how close it's going to be, losing at home to a Mitch Trubisky Steelers team when you turn the ball over 5 times and you miss an extra point for the win, and losing on the road to Seattle in week 1, on the road, at home, doesn't matter, in a game where you were the favorites, and that's a win that was chalked up for the Broncos, as in they're going to have that win. Those are huge missed opportunities for 2 teams that people think could be either in the playoffs or the Bengals battling for the number 1 seed. The Tennessee Titans losing at home to the Giants with an inferior roster, the Giants, a first-year head coach, and someone who probably needs a wheelbarrow to walk around now by going for 2 there, down by a point.
God bless him for doing that.
My goodness, dude. Just the missed opportunities while the Chiefs were incredibly dominant. It was a big week.
Yes.
It was a big week. Buffalo took care of business. The Chiefs took care of business. Chargers took care of business. Dolphins took care of business. Ravens. Just trying to think. It's Steelers, but nobody had the Steelers with Mitch Trubisky. Like, are they going to challenge for the number 1 seed? Right.
Their question is, could they be a playoff team?
And now without T.J. Watt for the next couple of months,
Tough.
like who knows, what they're going to end up looking like. But stealing the win there in Cincinnati was absolutely huge. Like we might be looking at Week 17 and going, if that extra point goes in for Evan McPherson, the Bengals are the number 3 seed. Instead, they've got to win this game to make the playoffs as a wild card team.
Didn't he also
like
miss a field goal in overtime too?
He did, like a 30-something
The extra point was
yarder.
blocked by Minkah Fitzpatrick at the end of regulation, and then overtime. Overtime was when I lost all grip in reality, to be honest. That's when it became sort of a mushroom trip of football because the witching hour is beautiful.
Just the duck hook. Just straight left by someone who was as cocky as it got last year in the playoffs, as he should have been because he was unstoppable. And even to the point, was it Mark Boerichter that talked about that there was a story during the game that Evan McPherson was pissed at the organization because his jersey wasn't in the team store at the stadium?
Oh, no.
It was like, why isn't my jersey here?
Well, look, that's the legend of I'm going to go out there and we're going to go to the Super Bowl or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Wasn't that the
100%.
So,
and at that point, you know what? Butker's jerseys are there.
Yeah.
When you've got that guy that's doing that, I don't know that, it's to the degree that a kicker would be complaining about his jersey not being there. But I would also ask the question, like, well, why don't they have a McPherson? I bet some people would be like, you know what? I'm going to rock a McPherson. You're going to say, hey, guys, we're going to the Super Bowl?
That's a good line.
Walking out there?
Sure.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You just got to keep making your kicks.
But then the extra point is blocked, and then he duck hooks the 30-yarder, and I know it was a high snap, and it threw off the timing. Butker took 1 step and kicked a 53-yarder. Okay, so adjust. Figure it out. So a crazy, amazing weekend that was, first week that was, capped off last night with one of the more head-scratching, boneheaded clock management mishaps for a coach who talked about the fact he has 2 different people on his staff to help him with game management.
Broncos country. Let's ride.
You want to talk about if we talk about wasted money on Scott Frost, $7.5 million. You got 2 people on your staff to help you with game management? You do that? The hell were they doing? Eating popcorn?
Playing Madden, trying to learn how to get the clock management right. To your point, in the AFC, there are some hilarious things going on just in the standings. The Dolphins and Bills both 1-0 in the AFC East. Again, we're talking about, everyone should pay attention here. Sample size, 1 game. I know, week 1. They've only played 1 game each. Everybody take a sip.
I'm going to drink some coffee there.
Go ahead and do that. AFC North, you got the 3 winners and the Bengals. The AFC West now, of
3
course.
winners and the Bengals. I love that.
The AFC West, of course, the Chargers get by the Raiders in a non-dominant performance that they almost chargered away. And then you have the Chiefs with a plus 23-point differential, which is the best in football. It's early. Once small sample size. The AFC South right now, the division leaders are tied with 0 wins.
With a tie.
Because
tied
the
with a tie.
Texans and the Colts are 0-0-1. And at the top of the division, because the other 2 teams in their division lost to the Commanders and the Giants.
At home.
They lost to Carson Wentz and Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz at home for a team that people thought could win the division, and they still might. I mean, again, the Colts are tied.
Because they're half a game back. That's a baseball stat. That's not supposed to happen here.
What's the magic number, 11?
Yeah, I truly do not know how to do the math now on their
So
being
they're only
a top.
half a game back. And Jags losing to the Commanders, understandable. The Commanders are
They're
I know it's
they're a little
Carson Wentz,
farther
but
along in the building
they
process. The Jags, I think, will be fine.
See my guy Jahan Dotson?
I did. He looked good.
2 touchdowns. I certainly needed that final touchdown from him as well because I had the Commanders -5. So I needed them because then they were driving and it was like they're going to kick a field goal and win by 2. No, I need a touchdown here. My guy coming through. I appreciate that. This text coming in, 913-912-4810 says, Broncos and Bengals lose games because of their kickers, and the Chiefs are using a safety to kick theirs.
And he's nailing it.
That's right.
He's bombing them out of the back of the end zone.
Kicking it through the back of the end zone.
PSA on that front, a lot of the little, sideline video, audio, mic'd up things can kind of be not terribly rich with information. The one the Chiefs put out of that entire scene, if you guys haven't seen it,
the franchise yet?
The franchise clip of Justin Reed on the sideline of that game.
Loved it.
The coolest that I think any of those have been. Patrick Mahomes gets distracted by Justin Reed kicking the ball through the uprights on the kickoff, just like we all
Kicked
did.
it through the end zone.
Incredible.
Dude, hey, he kicked that through the end zone. That went through the end zone, guys. Butker's hurt. That went through the end zone.
It's a really good one.
Dave Tobe was like, hey, we may need you to do kickoffs. And Justin Reed goes, bet. Let's do it, man. And then
he and Tommy Townsend worked on their handshake before the PAT.
That's right. And then after the PAT, they messed it up.
Yeah, but the PAT went through.
The PAT went through, and then when they were jogging back, a little bit on the franchise, you could hear Tommy Townsend be like, "Oh man, we messed it. They were just so excited that he made it. And
I'm sure that's good enough for them.
Yes. Another text coming in, and we did mention this, but says, what about the childish, irrelevant timeouts at the end of the game? It really is. It's the
toddler timeouts. I have not seen or heard that thought anywhere else, but I'm going to write down the phrase toddler timeout. So that is my intellectual property.
Did you hear Curtis give you credit yesterday during the program for your the Nebraska paid $7.5 million for expedited shipping
for same day shipping?
Just
appreciate you, Curtis.
Just beautiful. It was a great line. So you've got back-to-back days. So now Curtis can use the toddler timeouts later on this afternoon.
All right, I'm going to see if I can come up with something for tomorrow. Do not hold your breath.
Yep. Now you've got a reputation. It's daily. Now you got to figure something out tomorrow, but it's got to be something off games tonight. Better check out that baseball.
Yeah, let me see. Is there
check out Chris Bubich on the mound tonight. Taking on Joe Ryan.
Is there a Sun Belt game or anything? I don't know. I'll look at DraftKings.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up at 11 o'clock. We got Chiefs today press conferences. Braden Gall coming up at 1 o'clock. On the other side, who had the best weekend? K-State or KU? Clearly not Mizzou.
They have been eliminated from contention.
They are not part. Unless you hate Eli Drinkwitz just to the point that you want him fired, then maybe you're going the Barry Odom route of like, Mizzou had a great weekend because it means that the coach is going to get fired. K-State or KU, who had the best weekend, and then looking ahead to a couple of games over the next couple of weeks for KU and K-State. KU heading to Houston this week in a big one, and K-State should take care of Tulane, and then they get ready for Oklahoma next week while Mizzou takes on Abilene Christian. We'll talk about that on the other side of the break. More Zone coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
It would have been a... Just killed a spider that was crawling on the table here. Take that, spider. Huh? Yeah! In your face! Punk!
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Adam Teicher comes up at 11 o'clock. We'll hear from the Chiefs today about 11:45 or so. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and TBD, which with the Chiefs might actually be a player since CEH and MVS are out there. TBD.
It'll be some like 9th-round cornerback who's going to play Pro Bowl level football for the next 6 years. You might say, Josh, there are no 9th rounds. Where do you think the Chiefs get their corners?
Trent Badass Duffy.
Ooh.
Mick. Trent Badass McDuffie.
As long as it's not Trent Bad Duffy at any point, that would be unfortunate.
Bad hammy right now, which is unfortunate, but
makes me a little nervous.
The injury reports that came out yesterday, the Chargers with their injury report that Keenan Allen did not practice. J.C. Jackson did not practice as well. They also, the Chargers releasing it said, we did not practice today. This is just an estimate if we were to practice today. So, which is great because it's like Rashawn Slater, full participant with a back. But they didn't practice.
We don't know for sure.
But had we practiced, we do want to pass along because it is within the rules of the game. He is receiving treatment for his back, but he would be a full participant in practice even on a short week. But we didn't practice. Just want to pass that along there. So,
and then for the Chiefs, it was just Butker and McDuffie who got the would have practiced, which I believe is grammatically correct.
Would have not, did not practice.
Would have not, would would have not practiced if we had practiced, but they did not practice. But no one practiced, but they're the only ones who wouldn't have practiced if we did.
Which is just used as DNP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody else, there's a lot of limiteds out there that makes me a little nervous. Patrick Mahomes would have been a full participant, though. I mean, that's news right there.
Yeah, which, I mean, isn't it interesting that you're like, Patrick Mahomes' wrist is being x-rayed and looked at and they're having further tests on it. You're like, but what about McDuffie's hamstring? Is that going to be good to go? Because I highly doubt Keenan Allen is going to be good to go. Brandon Staley said yesterday that J.C. Jackson is 50-50 to play this week, so we'll see what happens with that. Who had the best weekend? KU or K-State?
Are you asking me? Are you asking the audience? Are you asking yourself?
Yes.
Here's where I'm at.
Yes.
I might be convincible.
Okay.
I think I have my actual winner. I think I know who I would go with. But you might be able to push me over one edge or the other.
I think KU was the winner.
I did too. Okay, we agree.
Because, again, as I said yesterday, I thought K-State was going to win by a decent margin. I thought they were going to cover the points. I didn't think KU was going to cover at West Virginia. I thought, KU was good this year, better, I should say. And I had them at over 2.5, but maybe I shouldn't say that I didn't think they were going to cover. I didn't, I teased the game. I didn't bet it straight up because I didn't want to bet it straight up. But I teased it to where KU was getting even more points. Didn't matter, because they were going to cover straight up anyway, and one of the other teasers didn't come through, so that didn't matter either. I think it was I teased Alabama down to like minus 14. So I'm like, well, Alabama's going to take care of business. I didn't want to tease Texas up to plus 26.
Kansas had a more impressive win than Alabama this weekend. How about that?
Yeah. How about this, Alabama? KU can win in overtime in Texas. I know you won on a last-second field goal, but it's kind of the same. I feel like KU and Alabama on the same level, but K-State was really impressive and dominant that we've talked about. And if I was looking at, because I talked about this on Sunday Sound Off on Sunday night with Mick, that if you gave me a choice, was that more K-State or more Mizzou? Well, there were three of us on the panel, and I was the only one to go K-State, that I thought it was more K-State being impressive. That defense is really freaking good. And I don't care if people are like, well, Missouri's offense put up 52 against a Division I opponent in Louisiana Tech. Group of 5, it wasn't Power 5, but they put up half 100 on a Division I opponent in the Group of 5. And then they put up 6 for 59 minutes and 59 seconds. And finally got, that touchdown. And by the way, they were leading 3-0 at one point in that game. That was about K-State's dominance. Yeah, offensively, could they be a little bit better? Sure. But that defense is really, really good and can lead them and carry them in a number of games if Adrian Martinez is inefficient as he was in that game, and they aren't feeding Deuce Vaughn enough. And I know he had 20-plus carries or whatever, but I would have liked to see him get some late touchdown to help out the Heisman. K-State was dominant. But from where KU is this year to go to West Virginia, and to me the impressive part is down by 14, you end up taking an 11-point lead. You go on, a 34-10 run at West Virginia. That was neck and neck with Pitt, that people think have a chance to, at least compete for the division in the ACC. They're in the Coastal, right? Not the Atlantic?
I've given up on learning college divisions because I know they're not going to matter.
They're just opposite
3 minutes
Clemson.
after we say them.
They're opposite Clemson, so they got a chance. Miami, got a chance as well. But Pitt was viewed that way this year, and West Virginia was right there with Pitt. And then KU goes in there and wins the way that they did. How many years? Pretty much every, maybe second half of last year. But since Mark Mangino, does a KU team fold the tent down 21-7 on the road against West Virginia, where their fans are going to be throwing batteries at you?
Pitt is in the Coastal, which makes sense because that's a famous coastal town, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And, yeah, for sure. So, like I said, Coastal with Pitt, and Miami's good, and Miami's got a big one this weekend as well. So we'll see. But again, it's not a terrible, awful, you've got to fire the head coach because West Virginia's that bad. We saw what they did just the week before. Yep. And so I wanted to tease it up because I didn't know that KU would cover those points. And they did, and they covered them by double digits. and I know that it was like, well, double digits in overtime. They were still up 11 late. West Virginia had to make the crazy comeback to tie that game. Not KU down at Texas. West Virginia at home had to make the crazy comeback. And I think part of it is what I believed about K-State before the season and what I've seen so far in the 2 weeks versus that I thought KU would be better. I liked them over 2.5. But I didn't think after 2 weeks of football that Jalen Daniels would be number 3 in total QBR in the nation. Not in the Big 12, in the nation. Max Duggan's number 1. Caleb Williams is number 2. Jalen Daniels number 3. Stroud is 6th. He's 3 spots behind Jalen Daniels. So just something to keep in mind as to how well he's played. I think KU had a phenomenal weekend, and I think it can go a long way for what this program can do moving forward. I'm taking them plus the points this weekend down in Houston, and I didn't think before the season they had a chance to win at Houston.
Yeah.
Because people thought Houston would win the AAC this year. Houston, undefeated, 12-0. Are they the best group of 5 team in the country? They survive UTSA by 2 points, and they give away the game against Texas Tech. They lose in overtime when they were up 7, and Texas Tech had 4th and 20 in overtime. How do you lose that game? Well, you give up 22 yards on a 4th and 20, and they lose that one. I think KU can go down and win. I wouldn't pick them straight up, but I think this game can be within a score in the fourth quarter.
I think you could ask the question back to last night's game. Who had a better weekend, the Chiefs or the Seahawks? Now, K-State's not quite the Chiefs in this. That's maybe a little bit generous to our dear Wildcats. But K-State had a dominant victory to continue to establish that they need to be taken seriously. But continue to establish that. KU, for the first time in a decade, just said, hi, we are not embarrassing. In fact, that was week 1. Week 1 was, look at us be not embarrassing against a team we should be better than. Beating West Virginia, as you said, in a comeback fashion where your quarterback looks like he might be a real dude. That is such a incredibly far cry from where this program has been since Mark Mangino. I mean, it has been embarrassment after embarrassment, both in the head coaches themselves, to what they've been doing to try to build out this roster, to game day decisions, to the overall state of the program. KU is a punchline football-wise. And now KU and Duke are a part of the punchlines in the college football world of, can you believe how these turnarounds have absolutely cut on a dime to change the fortunes of what these franchises look like? So I think KU's weekend was more impactful from where they've started the beginning of this season.
That's a good way to put it.
Because they have so much more ground to cover. K-State is, pardon the pun, miles ahead of where KU is, in part because of Les. Thank you. I didn't have real questions about K-State other than, hey, you want to absolutely throttle a rivalry game and truly look like a dominant team in a game that people locally are going to be locked into. That's big. That's really useful. Just like the Chiefs throttling the Cardinals is really useful for week 1.
They embarrassed Missouri.
Yes, and
no other way around it.
That is great for that team, for that fan base, for them continuing to establish, take us seriously in the Big 12. But KU has literally been a joke. I mean, as much as any program in college football, KU has been the bottom of the barrel. And now, with this win over West Virginia, and it wasn't fluky nonsense, they just were a pretty good football team with a quarterback who looks like the real deal. Man, that is just the first time we've been able to say that non-sarcastically about KU football in a really long time. Great weekends for both teams, though, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly was. And you talk about KU and the way they've been viewed for a long time. We had mentioned at the beginning of this year versus a couple of years ago, either Mark Schleybaugh or Bill Connolly, I can't remember what it was, but they do their tier rankings of teams at ESPN. And it's not like, here's tier 1, here's tier 2, here's tier 3. They label them like blue bloods. Close but not there yet. Rebuilding programs. New head coaches. Is this program on the rise? Things like that. And 2 years ago, the second to last tier was, at least you're not Kansas.
Yep.
And then it was Kansas at the end. That was 2 years ago, and now it's, boy, 2.5 seemed like it was easy money. They went to West Virginia. Can Kansas win at Houston? And it's also, if you would have said 2 years ago that Nebraska fires Scott Frost midseason and two of the local coaching head coaches are being talked about for the Nebraska job.
Yep.
0 people would have said the KU head coach.
Well, and even fewer than 0 would have said head coach Lance Leipold because
he was in Buffalo.
Because you might have gone, wow, so Les Miles really turns his things around, I guess,
Holy
huh?
bleep, really?
Les Miles in Nebraska?
This looks awful right now with what Les is doing. He's going to take over, they want him to take over Nebraska in 2 years. That's where the programs are.
Yeah.
And also an indictment on what's going on to the East. Is that middle of the season last year? Or before the season last year, it was, boy, this guy's a hot, rising, up-and-coming coach. Now it's, who's going to coach at Nebraska? Lance Leipold, Chris Kleiman, Matt Campbell. What about Eli Drinkwitz, huh? Oh, the offensive juggernaut that found a way to get Luther Burden a touch 3 times?
That made me sad.
3 touches. By the way, one of those touches was a drop pass. Yeah. So he touched the ball 3 times. 1 carry, 1 reception, and a pass that was behind him. Could he catch it? Certainly. It's his second game ever. He touched the ball 7 times the week before. 2 games in, Luther Burden has touched the ball literally 10 times in 2 games for a guy that Eli Drinkwitz talked all offseason about all the different ways they're going to get him the football.
Should start trying to do that.
More like, hey, look over there. There's Luther Burden. Ha, I got you. We're going over here. Ooh, we're punting. Hey, look over there. There's number 3. I bet you're worried about, we're not going to go there. Oh, we're punting. Ooh, interception.
At least his chips are good.
That's right. Yeah. At least his chips are fire because that offense is. Ugh. And I don't care that it was raining. You're talking about an offense that is really good completion percentage, but one of the worst in yards per attempt and air yards. So it'd be like, well, it was raining. Yeah, it hasn't rained every single week that Eli Drinkwitz has been the head coach. And I
may feel like it, though.
Yes, I know. But there have been plenty of days where you're like, okay, this feels good, right? There have been plenty of really shiny days, right? Sunshiny days that have been out there. A lot of them taking place in recruiting. And I understand some of the philosophy behind it in that if you are passing horizontal, spreading the defense out, not lengthwise, but, going side to side, then it can open up some gaps in the running game, which he wants to, run the football. He wants to do some of those things. Yeah, I get like the philosophy behind it. But eventually you'd like to see an offense not just dink and dunk all the way down the field and maybe hit some big plays.
Breaking news from the NFL world here, Jason. Tom
Okay.
Pelissero of NFL Network says Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen is unlikely to play Thursday night against the Chiefs, but there is optimism after tests that his hamstring injury isn't anything long-term per sources. Next game is September 25th against the Jaguars, 2 full weeks after the injury.
There we go. So that was expected, and we'll wait and see on J.C. Jackson. We'll wait and see on Trent McDuffie, Trey Smith, things like that as well. We take a timeout. We come back. Adam Teicher, we'll talk with him at 11 o'clock. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I want to defend my honor. Like, I don't get it. I mean, I'm always on time, Soren.
You're not a prompt individual, Jason. Let's not begin your tenure here in Kansas City with lies.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Oh, you're not going to play the next part? You're not going to play the next part of that? When I said, well, let's not continue your tenure, Soren, with exaggerations and falsehoods. This is not true.
The only person here who tells the truth is just me and Curtis.
That's right.
We're the truth tellers here.
That's exactly right.
We have a monopoly on the truth, I believe Stephen A. Smith once said. Someone on ESPN once claimed that they had a monopoly on truth-telling.
And it was Stephen A. Smith?
I'm not sure. Honestly, it might have been a cowherd thing.
Does anybody have a monopoly on the truth?
Just in this building, me and Curtis.
Okay.
Can't trust anybody else.
Interesting.
And Marco. Each show gets one.
We will, we'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up next. Then we'll hear from the Chiefs at about 11:45. And then an awesome story from Sean Payton, echoing Bruce Arians' thoughts, and apparently every other offensive coach that talked with Patrick Mahomes as a college quarterback.
Everyone knows.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Jason's logic was so confusing, it just dazes you, and you're like,
Yes.
yeah, I guess.
Yes, that's his plan. He runs circles around you.
Talking about.
And mark that for every returner ever.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Hello? All right, very good. My mic's on now. I came back like 2 different times. Like, we're back in.
All right.
I was it. I can't hear myself. My headphones turned down. What's the? I have
thing
no.
on?
I have no snare. Turn up the snare,
Can I get some more bass?
please. News from Tom Pelissero. We had mentioned this in the previous segment, but just in case, Keenan Allen unlikely to play Thursday night against the Chiefs. He also talks about optimism of when he can return for the Chargers, but does not look like Keenan Allen will be on the field on Thursday night against the Chiefs. DeAndre Carter had a big game for the Chargers. With Keenan Allen not there, Mike Williams and Josh Palmer were pretty quiet in those games, but Mike Williams is typically not quiet against the Chiefs, so we'll see. Adam Teicher, our guest here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, our insider from ESPN Chiefs Insider. Adam, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How are you doing today?
I am doing just fine. I'm doing just fine. I certainly had a lot of fun watching that Chiefs game on Sunday and an interesting week one around the NFL that we talked about to start the show today, with the Bengals losing and Titans losing and Broncos losing to the Seahawks, and just pretty interesting. But what was let's focus on the Chiefs here. We got you for a segment before the Chiefs talk. What was your reaction and takeaway from what seemed to be a really impressive game from the Chiefs?
Yeah. I mean, they confirmed a lot of things that I thought about them. You know, I always think, and you've heard me say this before, Jason, but they get a lot of good work done at training camp, and I do think it's a good strategy to play the starters some in the preseason. I think Andy Reid is pretty good at finding a pretty good blend there of getting guys some work but not overdoing it. And so I always think they're ready to go in the regular season. You know, not last year. Last year was the outlier. But from 2017 through 2020, 4 seasons, they started every one of those years either 4-0 or 5-0. And that's not just a coincidence. That's not just, just luck would have it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was they come out and they're generally ready to go in the regular season. And it certainly showed on Sunday. You know, they're ahead maybe defensively of where I thought they would be at this point, although the Cardinals certainly looked like a mess on both sides of the ball. So we'll have a better idea about that on Thursday night. But I think it's about as good as you could ask for from the Chiefs for getting the season started.
Yeah, the playing the starters and things like that and getting prepared for week one is an interesting one. You know, I talked about it yesterday and then talked with your colleague Field Yates at ESPN that we have on Mondays, and said, you know, and ask him, like, is it anecdotal or is there something more to it, to where the Chiefs play their starters? It may not be full games in the preseason. It, a drive in game 1, 2 drives in game 2, but the defensive guys were out there a little bit longer, and they looked good. They looked sharp. Arizona doesn't play their guys in the preseason. The Rams don't play their guys in the preseason. And the Bengals don't play their guys in the preseason. And those teams look pretty sloppy out there. And so maybe it's anecdotal, but his point was, yeah, the only way you get better at football is playing football and at full speed and against other opponents. It's not just simply saying, well, we're going to get better by practicing. No, and the Bengals one is really head-scratching because they've got so many new pieces on the offensive line, and the first competitive snaps they took as a new offensive line was against the Steelers' pass rush. That makes no sense. Yeah. But, to each their own.
Yeah, and, Cliff Kingsbury's explanation for that after, Sunday's game was that, well, we didn't play any of our guys in preseason last year, and in the first game we went to Tennessee, beat the team that was going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. We beat them by 25 points. So he's right. I mean,
that's true.
Playing guys, it's not the be all and end all. but it can help. It can make a difference. It won't necessarily, it doesn't automatically make a difference, but I think it can. And I just feel like, what Field Yates said is right. I mean, you have to work at football to get better at football. You can't do it by standing on the sideline. It just doesn't work that way. So, hey, so one of these years the Chiefs are going to lose somebody in the preseason, and the fans are going to scream. But in the meantime, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a team that's ready to go when the regular season starts, and I just can't see Andy Reid compromising that because just about every year, last year being the notable exception, they come out in a good place when the regular season starts.
The irony of the whole thing with the Cardinals not playing anybody in the preseason because they want to avoid injuries is that, the suspension of DeAndre Hopkins, nothing you can do about that if you're the Cardinals, but a starting cornerback misses the game because he burned himself cooking. Rondell Moore hurt his hamstring in practice. Trayvon Mullins hurt his foot, like lifting weights or something. Like, that's the irony, is like the injuries happened and it didn't happen in preseason games. It just happened because football, or freak
or
things.
Life.
Or life.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah. You get a little grease, spill, and all of a sudden you're out for a couple of weeks, and it's all unfortunate. But the Chiefs did what they had to do, and one of the things that I was really curious about, Adam, when we talked after Week 1, preseason game number 1, was looking back at games last year that if you would have stopped the first possession and said, "Okay, what's the Chiefs' offense?" you would have said, "All right, they're back. They look like the Chiefs' offense again." And then the rest of the game, they just went into a coma. It felt like. So I really wanted to see what this Chiefs offense would do after the first 15 scripted plays. And I said yesterday, and I'll continue to use the phrase, it felt surgical from Patrick Mahomes in that. It was a high level of offensive efficiency, drive after drive after drive after drive. And I think that's the exciting part, right, about the different guys that they can go to, that it's MVS or Sky Moore on a 30-yard play, or Juju Smith-Schuster coming through on a 3rd down and 8 for an 18-yard gain, or you've got Travis Kelce. The running game was working. Like, so much about the offense is kind of pick your poison, and if they play anywhere near the Patrick Mahomes being the composer that he was, like, I mean, good luck opposing defenses, whether they're the Cardinals or the Chargers or whoever.
Yeah, and if Patrick Mahomes plays like he did the other day, where he's so on point, I don't know there's a whole lot that opponents can do to keep up with him. I mean, I really don't. I mean, the Cardinals really came after him. That's kind of Vance Joseph's thing, is the blitz, and they they kind of paid for it a little bit. He really burned him on the blitz. Now, I don't expect the Chargers to be doing that on Thursday night or future opponents, but if he's coming out like that, given who he has to throw to and who he can hand to and who the Chiefs, how good the Chiefs are on the offensive line, that's going to be a really, really, really difficult team to beat. So you're going to need to score a lot of points to do that. And I think the defense, to me, the defense is in a better place, I think, than what I thought they might be.
Why? I mean, maybe we answered it just by simply talking about playing guys and getting the reps that Andy Reid does, but Patrick Mahomes may be the best Week 1 quarterback in the history of the NFL. 5-0 in Week 1 games. He's completing over 72% of his passes. In the 5 games, he's got over 1,500 yards passing, like 308 per game. 18 touchdowns, no interceptions, a 136.8 quarterback rating in Week 1 games. What is it about, Mahomes, and even really it's September, but like Week 1 has just been dynamite for him? Is it hand in hand with what we're talking about in playing guys and getting those reps and getting that efficiency and getting that cohesion with the entire group?
I have no other explanation, and you're right. I mean, he may be the best September quarterback in NFL history. True. I mean, it doesn't just – it goes beyond the opener. But I have no other explanation for what you're asking about. I mean, I just feel like the Chiefs are so laser-focused on getting better and keeping their eye on the prize during the OTAs and during the training camp, that this is a result of that. And you've heard me talk about this year after year, Jason, that they just get good work done up in training camp. And, that won't always guarantee a 4-0 start or a 5-0 start, or Pat Mahomes is going to light it up in September more than he normally does, but it certainly doesn't hurt. It certainly gives you a better chance of doing that. So I just feel like the way the Chiefs are so efficient with what they do, with the way they practice, and it is a big difference. So trust me, I'm not, I don't know what's going on with 31 other NFL teams in that regard, but I know what the Chiefs used to do before Andy Reid became their head coach, and this is a dramatic difference. It really is. I mean, it's the first thing you notice when you see an Andy Reid practice is how efficient they are, how much good work they're getting in, and there's just none of that extracurricular stuff. There's no fighting. There's no. Sometimes the old days Chiefs would just kind of stand around the practice field. I'm like, well, what are they doing here other than wasting time?
Yeah.
But there's no wasted time. There's no wasted effort. It's just really efficient, and you just know that they're going to be ahead of their. Chances are they're going to be ahead of their opponents in that regard.
Yeah, and we'll learn a lot against the Chargers, and I'll ask you about that game coming up here in just a little bit, because it's a better team, better roster than the Arizona Cardinals, and healthier, even though Keenan Allen is going to be out for the game. J.C. Jackson may play in that game. He's 50-50 is what Brandon Staley called him yesterday, so we'll see if he goes. But in terms of coming out of week one and then looking ahead to the rest of the season and some of the takeaways from the only game that we have to take anything away from, when we've discussed the AFC West and the different, is it the Chargers, is it the Broncos this year, they going to step up? The team that's being overlooked the most in the West is one of the teams that actually made the playoffs. And the Raiders, I mean, we look at the roster, we look at Mahomes, we do those things. We know how good Andy Reid is. And I think maybe even locally, I'll just say me, maybe even just myself, I didn't put enough weight into the coaching mismatch that will be there week in and week out with what we saw last night with Nathaniel Hackett and, the whatever that was at the end of the game and their struggles to even get the plays in. I mean, they had to call timeouts because of delay of games. They took a number of delay of game penalties. That was odd. Brandon Staley, we've seen that a year ago. And Josh McDaniels, second go-around, we'll find out what he looks like. But week by week, I mean, they're going to have the advantage at quarterback and a lot of other places, but they will have a pretty decent and sizable advantage with the head coaching position. And I certainly didn't talk much about that in the offseason.
Yeah, it is. And, I've kind of said that any team that's quarterbacked by Pat Mahomes and coached by Andy Reid, over the long haul, you're going to be okay. That team's going to be okay. It doesn't mean there's not going to be some bumps in the road. Like the second half, for instance, of the AFC Championship game last year, a really big bump in the road. But in the end, you're going to come out okay. And you're right. Then when you break it down on a week-by-week basis, I think that's a huge factor, having Andy Reid coaching your team in this game, than Brandon Staley, for instance. I think that is a huge advantage for the Chiefs.
Visiting with Adam Teicher, Chiefs insider from ESPN. The running game looked pretty good. It was a question we had about during the preseason games. Is it the offensive line? Is it running backs? Are they reading the holes correctly? Things like that. The three running backs, Edwards-Helaire, McKinnon, and then Pacheco, they combined to average 5.5 yards per carry in that game against the Cardinals. Banged up defense, missing Watt or not. It's still impressive that those three guys were able to do that. And there were some RPOs that were in there. But, Adam, there were also just some simply, I'm handing the ball off, and guys get to the next level, and let's, dominate this defensive line. Let's reset the line of scrimmage 2, 3, 4 yards down the field and get some bigger chunk plays. And so I really liked seeing that, too, from the running game, because it's an element that just makes them different than just talking about Patrick Mahomes and Pacheco in that final drive, salting the game away by being able to, pick up big chunks. I was impressed by that as well, to say, they can do that. And some of the things in the preseason was just that. It was preseason.
Yeah, it was. And sometimes, particularly from a team perspective, not so much from an individual perspective, But it's hard to trust what you see in the preseason. You know, hey, they're not running the ball well. Well, you know, how hard are they really trying?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just don't know. That's the thing, you just don't know. So, and I don't mean not giving effort on a given play. I just mean scheming things and preparing a team to run the ball like they did against the Cardinals the other day. So, hey, it was a great start. Arizona, the overwhelming thought I saw as I watched the Cardinals try to play defense on Sunday was, wow, they got nothing. I mean, that team has nobody on that side of the ball. So that might be the worst defensive team the Chiefs see all season. So we'll see where that running game, we'll have a better idea about it on Thursday.
How do you think the carries will be split up? Do you think it'll look like it did against the Cardinals, or if it's a closer game, they'll stay more with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and not mix in, McKinnon, and Pacheco came in when it was just completely out of reach. But do you think the way they started the game in the first few drives, scoring points, is the way that they may predominantly be this year, that it will be Edwards-Helaire getting the lion's share and mixing in McKinnon and Pacheco?
Well, I think it'll be more 1A and 1B. I mean, Edwards-Helaire is the RB1, but you look at the first half snaps the other day. In the first half, the running back snaps were 18 each for Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon. So Jerick McKinnon's going to be a pretty big part of this, I think. And certainly Pacheco will get mixed in there, but he only had 4 snaps in the first half. So I think, at least for now, maybe this changes as the season goes on, but I kind of see it like it was in the first half, where, maybe tilted slightly more towards Edwards-Helaire. But I can see both those guys getting a lot of work.
Adam Teicher is our guest. You talked about the defense. One of the things that you said was a quote that they are ahead where you thought they would be. And then, of course, the caveat and throwing in with a grain of salt that the Cardinals were missing some guys. But what was it, and what'd you see to where you came away with the thought that maybe they're a little ahead of where you thought what you thought they would look like in Week 1?
Well, they were good in the big moments. Very good on third down, and to me, the Chiefs dominated the game. They were going to win the game anyway. But as the game was going on, I thought there were 2 pivotal points in the game. The first was right in the first quarter when the Chiefs get the kickoff and they go down the field and score, and they're up 7-0, and then the Cardinals get a chance. And right away, boom, Chiefs make them go 3 and out right away, and Chiefs get the ball back and score again. It's 14-0, and in effect, the game was probably over right there. But then late in the first half, it's 20-7, and the Cardinals have the Chiefs have the ball and they fumble. Remember the Juju Smith-Schuster fumble, and the Cardinals have good field position. And I'm thinking, okay, they're going to score, go down 20-14 at that point, and then get the ball to start the second half. So I thought that was a pivotal point. The Chiefs made them turn the ball over on downs. I was surprised that Arizona didn't kick the field goal there. But at any rate, the Chiefs, they got it done on big moments of the game. They were very good on third down. So I feel like that's a real good start for them. That there'll be a defense that maybe the Chiefs can count on in big moments to get some things done.
In the touchdown drive that they had to make it 14-7. They had 3 plays there, Adam, that were more than 10 yards. They had 6 plays in the entire game that were more than 10 yards. So the final 35 plays for the Cardinals, they had 3 plays that went for more than 10 yards. In the final 35 plays. It's dominant.
Against a team that's looking for plays like that. I mean, you're way behind. You're not looking to, matriculate the ball down the field at that point, right? You're looking to get it down the field in a hurry. And I feel like the Chiefs really did stand up, and some of their young guys did a nice job. Jalen Watson got in there in the end, broke up a pass. So I think there was some things to like there for sure. And I don't know that they're a finished product yet, but hey, I think they're maybe ahead of where I thought they'd be at this point.
Was the pass rush to your liking, and what you thought maybe it would be with the front 4, not necessarily with Snead blitzing and getting there in the first drive and getting the sack and getting off the field, but just when they brought 4, seeing Karlaftis and Jones and Clark and Dunlap that got the sack as well, with those guys just simply rushing the passer, is it where you would like to see it? Obviously in week number 1, knowing that there should be some progression and some improvement.
Yeah, not really. I think that's one area they still need to grow in. I mean, Dunlap's sack was kind of a covered sack. And so they didn't really try to pressure him, I didn't think, because they didn't come after him a lot. I mean, mostly they did rush with 4. I think once or twice they even rushed with 3. So I don't feel like that was a priority for Spagnuolo in getting sending extra guys out against him. Maybe that was a Kyler Murray thing. You didn't want to be chasing him around all day. But I do feel like that part of it has to get better. They need to be more consistent with it. That's one area that I don't think the pressure percentage was overall. What was it? It was 10 of 36 when Murray was still in the game. So that was before they put Trace McSorley in. But probably needs to be a little better than that if they want to get to where they want to go.
Do you know if we'll hear from Andy Reid coming up in about 25 minutes from now? But do you have an idea of Trent McDuffie? He was listed in a practice report yesterday as DNP. If they were to practice, it would have been a did not practice, along with Harrison Butker. We know Keenan Allen messed up his hamstring, and Tom Pelissero has reported he is out. Likely out. They're thinking, maybe he'll be ready to go on the 25th. Is their next game. But any idea on McDuffie, is his chances of going on Thursday night against the Cardinals or against the Chargers?
I wouldn't think so. It's a long season, and why take the risk of losing him for a longer period of time? I don't think so. I wouldn't, unless he's just 100% and he's made this big recovery, which I don't think he has. I wouldn't do it. I think the Chargers are being smart with Keenan Allen, and I expect the Chiefs to make the same decision with Trent McDuffie. So unless he's just miraculously, he couldn't practice yesterday, but he's great now and ready to go. I wouldn't expect him to play, nor do I think he should play.
Yeah, he was a DNP with also Harrison Butker, which is different because we saw Harrison Butker somehow kick a 53-yarder that would have been good from like 60 by taking one step. I mean, just incredibly impressive from Harrison Butker and him gutting it out. Adam Teicher from ESPN. All right, what do you make of this Chargers matchup coming up on Thursday night? I'm with you. I don't think Keenan Allen, I don't think Trent McDuffie in the game as well. I think they'll also be safe with J.C. Jackson, will the Chargers, but we'll see. That might be a game-time decision on Thursday. But what do you make of this very, very important early season game here at Arrowhead on Thursday?
Yeah, as far as J.C. Jackson, that's another guy. It's a long season. He hasn't played or practiced in a little while now. It makes no sense for the Chargers to throw them out. Hey, this is a big game, but it's not going to determine your whole season. Yeah. So I'd be surprised to see him out there on Thursday night either. But you can talk literally. Toss a coin and pick a winner of this game because look at last year's games. One of them, the Chargers come into Arrowhead and score a touchdown with 20 seconds left to win the game, and the other one goes into overtime, and the Chiefs win that one. So I feel like these teams are so evenly matched that it's going to come down to who makes a given play at a given time. I just feel like that's impossible to predict. But so if you're pinning me down, I'll take the Chiefs just because they're at home, and I feel like in these Thursday night games, the home team kind of has the advantage even more than normal, just because of the travel aspect. But hey, it's going to be a close game. I can't see one. Unless there's a bunch of things you can't predict, like turnovers and all that kind of stuff, I can't see one team or the other getting a huge edge on the other one. Do you
have a score in mind for this one?
Yeah, I wasn't very accurate last week. I actually had the Chiefs by only 6, so you take this for what it's worth. But I'll take the Chiefs. Let's say 34-27, something like that, somewhere in that range.
All right. That certainly would take it. Any win, no matter what, you would take it coming up on Thursday night in this big matchup. Adam, you're the man. Really appreciate it, sir. Get in there and get ready for this press conference with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and we'll see who else. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Good stuff, man. Talk to you later.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher from ESPN. He is our Chiefs insider, and he's got 34-27. He had him. I thought he picked the Chiefs by 6 touchdowns.
That's what he said.
That's what I thought it was. You talked to him last week.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
he said Chiefs by $1 billion.
6 points, and by points, it's like how you would play backyard football. It would just be like, hey, we're up 3-2. You know, you get 1 for a touchdown. You're not doing the extra points. Sometimes you do by 7s, but whatever. Doesn't matter. You got a point, but by 6 points, as in touchdowns. So
That's how I took it, which
close.
is why I made millions of dollars putting my life savings and then some on the Chiefs to cover by like 20 points. So that might have ultimately been riskier than I realized, but I read into it from Adam that way, and he's never led me astray.
Alternate line, great call.
Yep,
great
call. Gotta go find them at -20.
Chiefs -20. What would that line have been?
Let's see if I can find that.
I mean, obviously they wouldn't have it posted now, right? I mean,
I'm thinking that there were probably some alternate lines and like some stories or something. I'll see if I can find it during the break and get you the answer before pressers.
Because I looked at some alternate lines, but I'm like, it's week 1. I'll just take the early 3.5 that I got it, or 4. I think I got it at 4.5 is when but it didn't matter. Like I said on the air, I'll go up to like 10. Like I'll go 7, 8, 9. I mean, I think they're going to blow this team out. And they did. This is going to be an interesting one coming up on Thursday night. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, coming up at about 11:45 or so. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I was thinking about that as, you were grabbing your wiener. And so I'm like,
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll hear from the Chiefs in just a little bit. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Orlando Brown, and George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis, and you know what? Made national TV, the Furious George.
Yes,
so
it did.
I guess that's pretty much it. Furious George, it is. And he said, whenever the most recent time that he has talked, said that he liked that one. So there you go. He'll be talking today along with Orlando Brown, who showed up on the injury report with a knee.
On the hypothetical injury.
That's right.
The injury report is real. Hypothetical practice.
Hypothetical practice, which he would have been limited in with a knee. I'm assuming it's fine since he's talking today. They are playing in we ain't hearing from Trent McDuffie today, right?
Correct.
So I think it'll be fine with Orlando Brown, who's limited. Also should point out that, it was a hypothetical full participant for the Chargers, but Rashawn Slater, showing up with a back injury there. But again, that's just simply he's being treated for something with his back, so you got to list it. But he would have been a full participant. He'll be fine in that game, which is a big deal because, my goodness, he's good. Rashawn Slater is really freaking good. And if Adam Teicher, as we asked him in the previous segment, wasn't exactly enamored or impressed with the pass rush by the defensive linemen, well, now one of them is going up against Rashawn Slater. So, good luck with that in that game, because Max Crosby and Chandler Jones and those guys, not watching the game close, obviously, not watching it nearly as close, keeping my eye on it. But I thought somebody tweeted out, like, where's Chandler Jones? Oh, that's right. He's supposed to be playing for the Raiders now, but he's not showing up. I'm like, well, if that's the case, then we'll see what the Chiefs pass rush can do against Justin Herbert. But also, again, as we've talked about, no Keenan Allen, who'll be out there. Keenan Allen, it's weird. Keenan Allen has hurt the Chiefs so many times. There was the game where he was just going off before he tore his ACL at Arrowhead, 5 years ago, 6 years ago in week 1, where he had it was 130 yards at half. It was like Justin Jefferson, and it was like they couldn't guard him. And then unfortunate that, he goes down like that. So he's been an issue, but I feel like the receivers that give the Chiefs the most problems are like the bigger bodied receivers, which is why Hollywood Brown, it's like, I'm like, that typically isn't the guy that hurts the Chiefs or the smaller, faster guys. It's usually the bigger guys that give them problems. And Mike Williams has been a problem for the Chiefs throughout his career. So he's still playing. Josh Palmer was supposed to be like a breakout candidate this year, could still be, but he had a quiet game against the Raiders as well. The now second-year wide receiver out of Tennessee. And DeAndre Carter had a big game. So if you're asking who DeAndre Carter is, you and a lot of other people, because nobody thought that, hey, who's going to have the biggest game against the Raiders? Is it going to be Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer? It's like, no, DeAndre Carter, who's played on a few teams over the last few years. Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens on Thursday. We will hear from the Chiefs on the other side. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. We'll hear from Orlando Brown and George Karlaftis as well. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know, I went to BYU, so every down's a throwing down. I mean, that's how that goes.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We'll head out to the Arrowhead facilities as Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, George Karlaftis, and Orlando Brown will be talking today. We will be hanging out at Rally House tomorrow in Belton on North Avenue, the Belton location for Rally House, and we'll be having gift cards that will be given away to those people that show up in Chiefs gear. So I think we've got like 30 gift cards to give away for the first 30 people that show up rocking some Chiefs gear into the Rally House Belton location. We'll be there from 10 to 2 tomorrow with our show, so you can come by and check out some of the cool specials that are going on. Get ready for the Chiefs and Chargers game. Take your barbecue and tailgating to the next level with Rally House and all the different things that they have there as well. The jerseys, premier brands, a lot of other things as well. So we'll be there tomorrow from 10 to 2 and be giving away some gift cards to Rally House for those that'll be rocking some Chiefs gear in Belton.
Got to come in. If you get a gift card, I mean, the selection at Rally House, seriously, every single time I go into a Rally House, I find something else. I'm like, well, when I walked in today, I didn't think I needed another, like, Monarchs t-shirt, and then I leave with a new shirt or a hat or something. I think literally every time.
No, I'll be leaving with something from Rally House tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't.
Just what happens.
Right, and that's part of the fun is we're going to go in not knowing, and we're going to leave with something wonderful. Maybe we figure that out during the show.
Josh,
you
you might need to pick me up something.
Sure, man. I mean, I'll just walk around like on. I'll zoom through on my phone or whatever. I'll just give you a little video call and. We can walk around and see what you like. Little virtual tour from yours truly.
Little FaceTime and just showing.
I was gonna say FaceTime, but Beards' Android has really made our communication more difficult than it needs to be. Downloaded iOS 16 last night. Customized my lock screen now, which Android phones have been able to do for 15 years.
Yeah, the new iPhone's gonna have the always on.
I know. I don't know how I
which
feel
Android's
about that.
had for like 10 years.
Also
right?
a long time.
A long time. I don't know how I
Yeah.
feel about it either. Apparently, it's maximized the battery, so it's not that big of a deal that they're able to have the always on screen. But sometimes I like it just to be dark.
Yeah.
Just to like that. Like when I set it next to my, next to the bed, just on the side table there. Like, it's got the alarm on it. I like it to be just,
The new lock screens and stuff, you can go through and set custom different home screens and whatnot, but you can also link up with the different focus options. So you can have one that's like for do not disturb. I've got one for little personal mode. If I go to this one, do not disturb. This is for like using my phone for press conferences. No, man, they've had do not disturb for a while, but now you can.
Making sure.
But now you can have custom wallpapers as you do it. It's its own thing.
Now you can personalize the do not disturb.
Exactly.
I see.
Beards, I was an Android guy basically until I got my first phone through 810, and then someone's like, hey, do you want the iPhone instead? And I was like, yeah, sure, we'll find out what that's like. And then AirPods got me, and I'm never going to be able to go back.
AirPods.
Really
That's what got you.
Yeah, they're perfect. I did not want to be an Apple fanboy. I didn't want to just be head over heels for every piece of Apple tech that comes out. I'm wearing an old Apple Watch, but it keeps like showing me my blood sugar successfully, so that's pretty cool. I do like having that.
That's good.
And I kind of get it now, and it kind of pisses me off whenever I can't just like a text from you because Beards is in the group chat with his green texts, and
the green.
You hit like, it goes Jason Anderson liked, and then it's a wall of text because Beards is there ruining it.
Because you get the green background on the text. It's ridiculous. Just give me the blue.
Can we just Beards? Can we start a GoFundMe? Like, is this financial?
No, I'm good.
Is it preference?
A personality trait now of yours?
I'm good.
Can we get Jason to use WhatsApp or something? I don't know. And that's not great.
Probably not going to do that.
You're
too
too old to start using new apps. I've accepted that.
Just leave me be with my texting. But all that to say, we'll be at the Belton Rally House tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
On North Avenue.
I can't FaceTime Beards, but I can call him on the phone and describe things in detail.
You know what I will describe Rally House as? Rally House is like sweets at the grocery store. So the way that I don't eat sweets is by not buying them.
Sorry. SWEETS. I'm with you again.
Yeah. The way that
why are there sweets at your what kind of bougie grocery stores are you shopping at?
The way that I don't eat sweets in the house is by not buying them because the willpower does not exist. If there are sweets in the house, I will then eat them. The way I avoid spending a lot of money at Rally House is sometimes I don't go.
But don't do that tomorrow.
But tomorrow I'll go, and I'll be spending some. Now, but when I set out to say I'm going to buy something, well then, yeah, I'm going to Rally House and getting something cool. We've done that plenty of times. But when I go like on remote or just randomly like with a friend or, let's stop into Rally House. Well, we're not just stopping into Rally House, okay? We're stopping into Rally House to buy something. I don't know what, but something, okay? If I set out to specifically get something, that's different. Then I'll probably end up with a couple of other things as well. So I will have something tomorrow that I leave with that I have no idea at this point, but something will catch my eye, and I'll see it from across the bar, and I'll sort of make my way through the crowd and slide right past Urban Meyer, who's on a bar stool, and then go up there and just ask that shirt, hey, come here often?
Hey, me and my wallet are really digging your vibe.
Yeah, just seeing...
hey, do you want to... You mind if I put you on my torso later?
I'd like to wrap you around my chest.
Which is weird because it was a pair of socks that you're looking at in this case. It was very strange. Last time I left with with one of the barbecue T-shirts that were at Rally House.
Oh yeah,
and,
I got one as well.
And an Arizona Diamondbacks hat.
I don't have one of those.
You can get one at Rally House.
It's a random buy, but you know.
It was the snake head with the ball in its mouth. It's one of. I mean, it's such a good logo.
It is.
I have to do it.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to buy other teams' logoed stuff. I just don't do that. Andy Reid.
Preface this again. If there are questions about Britt, I'm going to stay away from those questions. I appreciate that. So injury-wise, Harrison Butker has an ankle sprain, and we're just going to see. He's got a little swelling in there, so we'll just see how that goes day to day. And then McDuffie, Trent has a hamstring, and you know, we're treating it. We're going to see where that goes, but he's going to struggle to make it. He'll struggle to make it to the game. Other than that, everybody is up and rolling. We look forward to playing the challenge of playing the Chargers. We know they're a heck of a football team, and we always have great battles against them. And so again, we love bringing them here to Arrowhead. We know it'll be loud and an exciting atmosphere. So we're preparing ourselves as we speak here to get ready for that Thursday night game. With that, time's yours.
Andy, no practice today for either Butker or McDuffie?
Yeah, those two will not practice today.
Coach, as far as Harrison is concerned, how much of this is going to come down to how much pain he can tolerate in order for you to make that call if he go kick Thursday night?
Yeah, I think if it was just a pain thing, I think he'd bear through that, but he's got some swelling in there, so I think it's a matter of him being functional enough to do it. I mean, he's a tough kid and that, so we'll just see how that works out.
Are you comfortable with a plan B as far as Justin Reed is concerned if it doesn't go that way?
Yeah, no, we've got the plan B, and we're working on it.
Assuming you have to go with a backup kicker on Thursday, in your experience, how long before those three of those guys get comfortable with one another? How long does that process take?
Yeah, well, we'll see if that's where we go with it.
Right.
Yeah, so we're kind of in that process right now of looking at guys and just to make sure we have things covered. So we'll see where all that goes.
But if you have to use that guy Thursday night, how long?
Yeah, well, we went through this last year and it worked out pretty good on relatively short notice. So I think we'll be okay. And I'll probably speak on both sides of my mouth here, but because I've said before that I think that time that they have together is important, but we did have success with it last year, so we'll just see where all this goes.
Coach, you mentioned preparation. How much did you look ahead? I know it's one game at a time for you, but how much did you look ahead knowing that it would be a short week?
Well, we had that extra week, and so we were able to take a glance at them. I mean, not quite as intense as what you do when you're getting ready for this game here now. I mean, but we did, yeah. I mean, we had a pretty good idea to where we could put a game plan down and go, yeah.
Andy, how far back does it go? I believe this is correct, that you spend specific time in OTAs on AFC West teams. How far back does that go? What do you get out of that when you do it then?
Yeah, I started that when I was in Philadelphia, doing that during the OTAs. It kind of breaks it up and gives the guys something to look at. Plus, it's a good feeder for you. It makes coaches think. It makes the players, think about who they're playing. So, but yeah, no, we did that this year too. So we utilized that, and then we utilized the week that we had this preseason bye week. We use that.
And the concept is sort of just deep study, or I mean, how would you frame what?
You don't have as many plays that you're putting in, but you're going to go in and you're going to study them like you're playing them. You're going to detail that up, and then you'll have a few select plays that you work with.
Andy, one of the new combinations for the Chargers is the Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack combination. I just wonder what jumped out to you in that first look, knowing that it's a short turnaround this time.
Yeah, no pun intended there. They do jump out at you. They're two good players. They're both healthy and moving fast. They did a nice job against the Raiders. We're aware of them. I mean, we know that they're good. We respect that. So we're working on a plan, to do the best we can against them. Right?
Yeah, how eager are you to see Orlando Brown in this particular sort of setting? He sort of mentioned the offseason, he wants to be one of the best left tackles in the league.
Sure.
It's sort of the first game where he can sort of prove the progress he's made over the offseason.
Yeah, sure. No, it's a great challenge. He loves that, though. I mean, that's he's very energetic when it comes to challenges. He wants to be the best, and so this gives him. These are the things, the merit badges that you get if you take care of business there. So, but that's a big challenge, for our tackles. But again, that's why we're in this business.
Andy, the difference in Justin Herbert, as you've seen him progress, what do you see in film now? You say is a little differently from what you saw last season into this season.
Yeah, so every year he seems to get better. He's very smart. He understands where to go with the ball, so he's got a real good grasp of the offense, and he's accurate. So he does a nice job, and that's not going to get any worse as he goes. He'll just keep polishing that, moving ahead. The experience is everything now. So.
Andy, I'm going to go Matt, then work this while we're done.
EB mentioned yesterday how important it is that you guys want to be able to prove that you can run the football. How critical is that against the Chargers, a team that knows you pretty well and is probably going to give you different looks than Arizona did?
Yeah, so I think it's important that you move the football. Running's part of it, and then throwing is part of it. And I think a mix becomes big. But when you need to run the ball or want to run the ball, you should be able to do that. Yeah, that's the challenge. So when we dial them up, let's go. And there's a certain attitude that goes with that. And so that's what that's where the emphasis has been. And our guys, the linemen like doing it. So if you told linemen he had good pass block or run block, he didn't tell you run block. I mean, you know that, right? You're going to go run block. So, and they enjoy that.
In the context of Trent likely being out, seems like you guys might rely on Jalen as a 7th rounder. Just what have you seen confidence level wise from someone that was picked in the last round of the draft to be able to go in there and play significant snaps potentially?
Yeah, I thought he did a nice job. The pick doesn't matter now, right? So it's a matter of how he continues to up his game with the things that he's seeing there. So that's the important part, and focusing in on the game plan and being able to execute that absolutely the best he can. And there's a lot to do when you start getting ready for these things, especially on Thursday night. You don't have the whole training camp to get ready for it.
Harvey.
Coach, just a follow-up on Patrick Mahomes' left wrist injury. I know it estimated full practice yesterday, but do you anticipate any issues with that at all, or is he a full go?
Yeah, no, he's full go, yeah.
Coach, general question about experience and coaching, especially in things like short weeks. Not asking you to talk about last night's game and maybe some inexperience with coaching staff, but you guys and your staff have been together for a while, a lot of experience. How long did it take as a group till you felt comfortable as a head coach dealing with things like end of game and short weeks and all that? And is that an advantage? I know the players make plays, but is that an advantage for a staff to have kind of experience throughout the year, especially in situations like this?
You guys see it because we do training camp up there, Missouri Western State University, so it's open, and you see how much we work on those things. We also do that in the walkthroughs in the afternoon practice. So you spend a tremendous amount of time on it, and you hope that your players grasp it and want to grasp that part. And then the coaches that are responsible for their certain spots are experts at it, right? And inevitably the head coach has to make the final decision, but that's how we do it. And I've got a ton of trust in my guys, the new ones and the old ones. You know, they spend time in it, and then we expect them to be able to have answers at that time. But the players buy in. You know, we invite them to ask questions on it. If we're not covering it, stimulate us, you know, with thoughts. So, and then we'll find that answer for you.
You've been doing this so long. How long did it take you to feel comfortable being a head coach, like through all that stuff? Are you comfortable? Yeah.
That's a bad question. That's a bad question, because right when you say you're comfortable with it, it slaps you. So you just keep working at it. There's always something in this crazy business, man, that pops up, and you go, "Doggone, where did that one come from?" So
last two, Adam and Sam.
Hey, Andy, Pat's off to another fast start. I mean, that's nothing new for him. It seems like he's always playing well this time of year. Something you can point to, or some things you can point to in his off season or his camp or whatever it might be that allows him to just pick up right where he left off?
Yeah, I'd just tell you his preparation, the way he approached it. I mean, football is important. I think if you ask him, family and football are right at the top of the list there, and the things that he does. And so he's always going to put that, whether he's doing a commercial or something, he's going to put that in the front, and it's not going to disrupt what he's doing. So I think it's his approach to it. As you know, he's extremely smart. His recall is exceptional. Retention, you know, goes along with that. But you tell him something once, he's got it, and he wants to be, you know, he wants to be great. So.
You talk about him, you know, sort of making football a priority year round. How common or uncommon do you feel like that is in your experience?
I don't know. Listen, I've been spoiled. So I've had some quarterbacks that love football, and I mean, we had Alex Smith here before, and he loved it. And you know, I go back to Philly. All the quarterbacks I had at Philly loved football. I had to kick them out of the building, you know. And when I was at Green Bay, I had Brett Favre. So I played with Jim McMahon and Mark Wilson. All these guys, they love football. And when I was in college, so they, you know, I don't really know any other way that those guys operate. I haven't had one of those that didn't, you know, it didn't just jump in and go.
Last one, Sam.
Just a couple quick ones. I wondered if, you know, Spags implied yesterday that McDuffie's injury is because of the turf. I wonder what the frustration level is with that.
The turf.
In Arizona.
Yeah, well, they resodded it, that's a good thing because they practice in there. But it was a little bit loose. That's what happens, you know. Sometimes when you resod it, it's loose. And I mean, listen, it was part of the Bucker injury and McDuffie injury. I mean, that's unfortunately that was part of it. Just the turf picked up and you know. So I would tell you that did have something to do with it. If it didn't, I'd tell you that too. So it's not an excuse by any means, but I mean, you all can see it. You watch the tape.
And And then Mahomes faced, or you guys faced a heavy percentage of blitzes on Sunday. I wonder if you infer that that's maybe indicative of maybe seeing some different things this year, or does it just more Vance Joseph style?
Well, I mentioned Vance. He's aggressive, and it's that's how he's been against us. He mixes and matches, and very, very hard to get settled with all that. I mean, you got to really stay on your toes. But he's been doing that a long time. I mean, that's his style. So, and all the guys kind of have their own deal. Maybe they don't do as much as what we saw at Arizona. Maybe they do. But that's to answer your question. That was Vance's. That's what he does. So we'll see.
All right. Thank you.
All right, there's Andy Reid. We'll hear from Patrick Mahomes, George Karlaftis, and Orlando Brown as well. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City. Yeah, it is unfortunate. Like, I don't understand how in the NFL there can ever be a sod problem. Like, ever be a sod problem, especially that can cause some injuries where both the Chiefs that did not practice that, may or may not miss the game on Thursday or because of sod issues. Here's Patrick Mahomes.
On all the AFC West and OTAs, how does that help you, and does that give you a little leg up?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps for short weeks like this week that we spent some time on them in the off season, and that we kind of went over their defense and the rules of their defense and stuff like that. But you still have to jump into it. I mean, it's a short week, a few late nights, a lot of time up at the building. But you have to be prepared because they have a really good defense, and we have to go out there and execute if we want to find a way to win.
Patrick, were you all surprised by the number of blitzes you saw on Sunday?
Not necessarily. I mean, that's what they've done. I mean, Vance had success doing that against us when he was in Denver, and that's kind of their identity. So you kind of get to some games sometimes where it's, do they change their identity or do they believe they can go out there and play the way they play? And they went out there and played, and we were able to execute at a high enough level that we were able to go out there and score some points.
Why do you think that was the case? Obviously, that's not something you see often, really.
I think we just had a good game plan going into it. We had a good protection plan, and even when guys were free, I thought guys did a great job of recognizing and kind of getting themselves open quickly. And then the offensive line did a great job of protecting. I mean, there were some spots where you kind of could see guys like Orlando kind of bouncing back out and getting guys they necessarily weren't supposed to get, just because if they got that extra little hand on there, I was able to climb up in the pocket and make a throw.
Patrick, you talked about after the game in Phoenix the other day that the way you guys practice at camp helps you get off to a fast start every year. Are there things you can point to, specific things about training camp maybe, or OTAs, whatever it might be, that allow you to kind of pick up where you left off right when the season starts? I
think first off is the amount of reps. I mean, we get a lot of reps in training camp. We go up against a really good defense with a good scheme and Coach Spags. And then Coach Reid puts us in a lot of game-like situations where he puts us in situations where we're having to run a 2-minute drill, or we're having to drive down the field on a long drive drill, and all these different situations that whenever you get to the game, you're not surprised by stuff. And I think that's why we've kind of started fast in these last couple of seasons. But we have to carry the momentum. I mean, we have a tough schedule, and so we're right on to the Chargers, who are a great football team.
Patrick, can you say what's going on with your wrist at this point? I mean, how has it progressed, and the thumb?
Yeah, it got a little sore yesterday, but then today it felt a lot better. So we kind of got in the training room, got a little work on it. Haven't actually had any time today to even get any work on it, but it's already felt a lot better. So I'm sure I'll be good to go this week.
Do you feel like it's been pretty extensive, what you've had to do with it, or?
Not necessarily. I mean, just normal stuff. Just kind of take care of it, kind of just keep some stuff on it. But other than that, I mean, it feels great today. So hopefully it keeps getting better like this, and I'll be good to go on Thursday.
Just with the Chargers, a different look now with Khalil Mack involved in there. Just what have you seen from their defense as you review film with the Chargers? And do you kind of take a little sense of pride in the fact that these teams are really just prepping just for you in the way they change their personnel over offseason?
Yeah, I mean, not just me. We have great quarterbacks in this division in general. So you saw everybody in this division get pass rushers, and so they can go out there and get after the quarterback and make it hard on us. But Khalil's a great player. I mean, obviously they have Bosa already with a lot of other guys that go out there and can rush the passer, and then they have a good defense everywhere. I mean, they have Derwin at safety. I know JC, I don't know if he's playing or not, but he's a great corner, and they have other corners that can play as well, and linebackers. So, I mean, this is a great defense, a great challenge for us early in the season. I'm just sad Khalil came back, man. I thought he was out of the AFC West, and now he's back getting sacks again.
Patrick, the broadcast caught you throwing up after the fourth touchdown, but it was eventually 5. What was, if you remember that moment, what was firing you so much in that moment? And who are you kind of speaking with, if you can recall that in Arizona?
I mean, I don't even remember doing it. I kind of just went out there and threw a touchdown. I was pretty hyped up. But I saw it on the broadcast, too. I don't know exactly what I was thinking.
With your experience, Patrick, you know what it takes to be successful on Thursday night games. I'm just wondering, because this one is so early in the year, how much do you weigh what you've done in the past that has led to success on Thursday night, and how much of it is a balance of getting extra sleep or maybe sacrificing sleep so that you are fully prepared?
Yeah, I think usually I sacrifice the sleep earlier in the week, and then as you get closer to the game, try to get back on your sleep schedule and getting your recovery back up there. And they're tough. I mean, they're always tough because your body's not necessarily all the way back to where you want it to be, but you have to find ways to battle through it. And early in the season is kind of good and bad because you kind of, like when you play a division game, we've studied the Chargers a lot in the offseason, so you still have that fresh on your mind. But it seems like in the hits that you take early in the season, you're a little bit more sore because you're not used to them again. So it's a kind of, there's positive and negatives to it, but you just try to go in there and play your best football when it comes down to it at the end of the day.
Of Jody's 6 targets for his career, 3 of them were touchdowns. What makes him seemingly the perfect red zone target for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, we do a good job of scheming stuff to give him the one-on-one matchups. And he's such an athlete, and he can go out there and make those catches. And so whenever we get down in the red zone, he makes those catches and gets those touchdowns. And I think I said it to someone yesterday or a day before where I was just like, we got to get him more involved in the field because he can make the plays happen in the field as well. And I think you saw that in training camp. And hopefully as the season goes on, we get him involved more in the field as well. And then he still keeps catching those touchdowns.
Patrick, you're obviously gelling with some of the new faces on this offense. How do you make sure during a short week where the focus is always going to be on the mental side of things that you guys don't miss a beat? You can keep on carrying that momentum from Sunday.
Yeah, it's finding that line of where we can go out there and put in new plays and that go against this defense and this scheme, but still run the plays that our guys know and that we can play fast. And so I think Coach Reed does a great job of that, still putting in new plays and getting us ready to go, but not overwhelming us. And we have a lot of smart guys. I think that's the biggest thing, and it helps when you have those guys in the receiving room especially.
Now, the Chargers have come away with wins last season and the season before. Is there something that you need to do at Arrowhead? Is there something that you need to do or correct to make sure that these games don't get away from you?
Yeah, they came in last year and beat us, which I think is week 2 as well. So that's something you got to learn from and know that they're going to be ready to go. And I mean, they've won here, so they're not going to be scared to come in here and play. And so we have to come in with a better mindset of we have to go out there and play better from the start. And I think last year we got down 14-0 quick and had to battle back. And then the year before, I don't think I even played. So it was the one last year. I think it was big for us to know that. They're going to come in with the mindset of kind of jumping on us early and try to carry that momentum, so we have to match that with our momentum.
In that same line, you know that the Chargers are going to have a different scheme and plan than Arizona had against you. Are you kind of intrigued to see, how your offseason changes and adjustments are going to play against a defense like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, their defensive coaching staff is great. I mean, Coach Staley is the defensive coach, obviously, and has done a lot of great things. But I mean, all the way down through it, and so they'll have a good game plan. They do a good job of not only playing the same coverages, but kind of through their scheme of out, kind of being in the right spots. So it's about us kind of counteracting that and then going out there and executing. And so they're going to play. I mean, obviously probably more zone, not as much pressure. But they'll come out there and play man too. They got a lot of great players that they believe in, that they brought in, and I'm sure they'll give us our chances at man, and we have to win whenever we get our chance.
Hey Patrick, you had a 35-yard throw to Kelsey off the play action. Kind of a tiny window, kind of a buzz about that. What did you see on that window?
Yeah, it was a play where it was designed where you kind of look at McCole and then reset to Kels, and he was running to the spot, and I've run that play a lot. We're throwing those balls to Kelsey, so I kind of just trusted him and threw it to the spot. And I think it was 47, the linebacker's head was turned, so I knew it was going to be tough for him to make that play. And luckily he didn't turn around fast enough, and Kelsey made a great catch.
You talked before, Patrick, about receivers making adjustments with you post-snap.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder with Juju and MVS, how you felt it went for the first time operating, adjusting to what the defense was presenting you based on whatever the play call was.
Yeah, I think they did a great job, and especially against a defense like that where there's pressure. I mean, a lot of times those adjustments come when you have to get yourself open quickly. And I think you saw there was certain times where I got the ball in my hand fast and got it to those guys, and they were able to get the ball and get upfield. And so, I mean, they'll continue to get better and better. It'll be another great challenge for us this week. So I'm excited just to get out there and play again against a division opponent.
To that point, Judy had a couple of fumbles in the game. What was your message to him in game?
Yeah, I mean, those things happen. Obviously, we don't want him to, but he's playing hard. I think that's both times he fumbled, he was trying to get extra yards. So, I mean, all you can say is just try to keep it high and tight and keep two hands on when you get in traffic. But I loved how hard he was playing, trying to run through tackles, get those extra yards. And I think if he kind of keeps it high and tight, he'll start breaking some of those tackles when they're going in for those strips, and he'll get a few extra yards for us.
Couple more guys.
Do you make a point to say, all right, I'm coming back to you no matter what happens?
I think those guys know it. That's just kind of who I am. I mean, I'm going to give those guys chances. I believe in the guys that we have in this locker room. There's never going to be a time where I kind of turn away from somebody. If their number gets called, I'm going to give them a chance, and they'll go out there and make a play.
Last one, Sam. That Kelsey play that you described earlier, is that something that popped in the film room, or you just kind of move on to the next play?
Just move on to the next play. I mean, I was more upset that I missed McCole on both those touchdowns than anything. So I'll have to make sure I get back and hit those next time and not leave those on the board.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, Patrick.
Least surprising thing from Patrick Mahomes there than talking about all the good things that happened and him saying there at the end, I was more upset I left those on the board. With McCole, the two missed shots to McCole Hardman, both of those could have been touchdowns on those particular passes, and not focusing on the brilliant throw to Travis Kelce and saying, no, we just move on to the next play. So, the next play, and then the next play after that was a Sky Moore 30-yarder when he was rolling to his left and, threw the ball back to his right. So, pretty good day. We'll see what comes up on Thursday. Here's Orlando Brown.
Or what are you seeing? Tell me a little bit about just some of the ways you can stop the combination of Matt and Bosa.
Yeah, man, they're two very special talents, both in their own way. Both have been doing it for a long time as well and been very consistent while doing it. I think they both play with a ton of power. They have I don't want to say a lot of different moves, but they have a lot of successful moves and different styles in the way that they set up their moves. They're both really good pass rushers, man. We'll have our hands full this week.
I think someone brought up to Patrick that this whole division is kind of set up to go after the quarterback because of the good quarterbacks in there. So mindful of that and your job against all these teams that have beefed up defense, you just see that as just how do you look at that this year as you go through this division?
Yeah, no, it's the NFL. You know what I mean? We're all excited for the challenge. You know what I mean? I didn't sign up to do this to, necessarily go against guys that weren't elite at what they do. So, I look forward to the competition and being able to get out there and compete against that type of talent.
Do you do anything extra to get pumped up, knowing that you are going to be going against a guy like Khalil Mack or Bosa?
Yeah, regardless, man, you kind of have to study who you're playing and study their tendencies and all those different things. As far as extra, just with the short week, man, taking care of my body.
How do you handle short weeks?
Yeah.
I know we were talking in here about in the OTAs, you guys prepared. I know you weren't there, but usually prepare for that in training camp. You get a little bit of background on the teams, but when you're turning around and you've just had aches and pains from the day before, how do you refresh for a big game like this?
Yeah, just I guess you could say as much rest as you can, while also getting as many mental reps as you can, studying film, the game plan, obviously the game within the game, my plan for attack against these guys, and, for whatever Coach Reed and everyone has put in.
Orlando, you guys started week 1 on the road, back at home for week 2. How excited are you to get in front of Arrowhead?
Oh, man, very excited to get. It's always so much fun playing in the stadium, man. Kansas City loves their football, and, they love the Chiefs. And, it's always a great atmosphere on game day, man. Just how loud it is, the energy, the fans, man. It's special to be playing at home this week.
Okay, guys. Thanks, Orlando.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, there's Orlando Brown, big test in front of him. You want to be paid like one of the best tackles in the NFL? Thursday night, show yourself. Let's see what happens, because you knew Bosa was already a problem. And then Khalil Mack now back in the AFC West, as Patrick Mahomes said. I was sad to see him back in the West. I thought he was gone. And, now he's back terrorizing quarterbacks, and hopefully that's not the case on Thursday night. But, Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley, they have their hands full and their work cut out for them, and the entire offensive line and scheme and protection calls and coverages and things like that. Mahomes did say that when it came to the blitz from Arizona, that the offensive line overall had a great protection plan, and then he talked about the wide receivers that did a great job of recognizing that and then adjusting to know what they were supposed to do there on that particular blitz, which is huge. I mean, it's obviously a big deal for a team that was playing with so many new skill position players in the first game that actually counts, to have that recognition that quickly of seeing the blitz and knowing exactly what you were supposed to do to adjust on the fly. And then, of course, this is an offensive line that's played together for a while. And Andrew Wiley at right tackle hasn't played together with them all year last year, but for the last part of last year, he was the right tackle. So, yeah, they should be good at adjusting to coverages and protection and things like that. So, no doubt a big one coming up on Thursday against the Chargers. And everybody's going through the how do you recover, right? How do you get your body ready for Thursday's game? Everybody is. Sounds like Trent McDuffie will not go. Andy Reid saying that the hamstring, we're going to see. He'll struggle to make it to the game. So
that's about as definitive as you're going to have Andy Reid be on a Tuesday that is effectively a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as clear an answer I think as you're going to get.
Tuesday that's effectively a Friday.
Well, I guess that's true.
Yeah, because they play in 2 days. So typically this would be like a Fast Friday type deal with Andy and whoever else at the podium.
Good point.
Yeah. But he'll struggle to make it to the game. Does he not know the way? Does he need directions?
He would struggle to get to Arrowhead, which is concerning. He knows exactly where to be on the actual field itself.
Okay.
As soon as he crosses those lines, Trent McDuffie has no internal GPS at all.
On the field, outside of the field, just struggles at different times. But, yeah, it's unfortunate because he was having a monster game.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a monster game in stats, but I know that people are not enamored with Pro Football Focus right now. Mm-hmm. I know there are some issues with Pro Football Focus and their grading. But I don't know who. I'd have to look it back up on Twitter. But the Pro Football Focus analyst that said that it was unfortunate that McDuffie went down because he was having just an awesome game, and just what he was doing against the Cardinals cornerbacks in these reps after reps after reps that was like just perfect in him in the game. And then slips on the turf, falls, stretches out his leg, and hurts his hamstring, and now he's going to be out for Thursday night's game. So that's unfortunate. But, yeah, I got to find the Pro Football Focus analyst that tweeted that out, because I'd like to get the actual wording right on that. But.
The loss of Trent McDuffie and Keenan Allen. Well, let's go. Why don't we go back out to Arrowhead? Let's just that.
Excited to see all the intensity everybody's talking about and how it's going to escalate from the preseason.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Way big time.
I've heard.
George, how much did they talk about speed changes each level? How much different did Sunday feel than even preseason
Yeah,
speed?
I mean it was definitely fast. It was a lot faster, but we practice at a certain level that prepares you for that game speed. So I think as our coaches and my veterans and the guys around me and the D-line room did a great job in helping me prepare and be ready for that speed change, because there is one. So.
George, you 4th and 2 play. Can you just go through that too? I mean, it was pretty crucial that you forced Murray to just get rid of it. What you see there?
Yeah, I mean, we were obviously very cautious of Kyler's ability to run the football, escape the pocket and scramble. So we definitely wanted to keep him contained, and after that, get our hands up and force him to make a bad or incomplete throw. So.
George, you face Kyler Murray. You talk about his scrambling ability, but you're going to face another guy that's able to scramble and throw. Justin Herbert. What stands out to you on film?
Yeah, I mean, you play in the NFL, and it seems like almost everyone can run and throw and do it at a very high level. This guy's one of the best, that we're going to play. We have a lot of respect for him, on the defensive side, and he's gonna bring a lot of challenges. But we're going to be ready, I think. And just excited to go against divisional rivals. So.
George, Steve Spagnuolo told us yesterday that after the game, you went up to him and immediately identified 2 things that you thought you could have done better, and kind of like you said, hey, that's just George. He always wants to improve. What were those 2 things?
Oh, I'd rather not discuss this. It's specific stuff to our scheme, So, but yeah, I like to correct something. It's. To me, it's big to not make the same mistake twice and always try to improve. And I think that's not just me, but I think that's all the rookie class and a lot of the younger guys too are trying to get to that level of the veterans. For me, it's like Frank and Chris, and Carlos too. Reach their level and eventually surpass them, God willing. So, it just goes back to not making the same mistake twice and just constantly striving to become a better player.
You watch the veterans on your team, and they help you, Frank and Clark, and done that. But are you going to peek at the two that San Diego had, Bosa and Mack, and how they do their job at pass rushing?
Yeah, those are two of the guys I watched a lot, in college and, even in like the off season, like I'll watch them just to see what they're doing, not schematically or anything like that, but just as pass rushers. Obviously, those guys are at the very top of the profession, and they pass rush extremely well at an extremely high level. So they're always great to study. So it'll be awesome just watching them live, and maybe I'll go up to them and introduce myself or something afterwards. So.
I know you said you can't give us specific things that you want to change, but how do you grade your performance? What grade do you give yourself?
You watch a game tape and you want some plays back, but I think I was proud of myself for kind of getting out there and playing, and made a couple mistakes here and there, but not letting it affect me. Having a goldfish memory and just forgetting and moving on to the next snap. So I was proud of myself for that. Obviously, a lot to improve on, in terms of technique, in terms of just everything about the game. But, felt like I did some good, some bad, and just a lot to improve, nonetheless.
Goldfish?
Goldfish memory, yeah. They forget instantly.
Couple more.
Never.
Okay, we'll end on that one.
Yes.
Thanks, George.
Yeah, thanks, George.
It's Ted Lasso. Come on, everybody, Ted Lasso, be a goldfish.
It's also just like a pretty common, most forgetful animal.
Right, but be a goldfish. As Ted Lasso became very famous after season 1 of Ted Lasso. Be a goldfish. Forget. He's got the memory of a goldfish. Be a goldfish. So there you go. George Karlaftis being a goldfish. Like to see him swim through the offensive line and get some tackles.
Well, swim move gets better when you're a goldfish.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, gets slippery right on through,
I do think it would be easier to block a goldfish than George Karlaftis, though.
No, those things can flop around, and then it's like you're very big. Like you're talking about 6'5", 6'6", 300-pound guys that are trying to block this goldfish flopping around and everything. So I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay,
Plus, if you're in water, you're in his element.
Would you? Well, that's true. That changes. The home game, road game changes this completely.
That's right.
Would you rather fight one goldfish-sized George Karlaftis or one George Karlaftis-sized fish? Goldfish, that is. What's more dangerous as a pass rusher? I think having opposable thumbs is going to be huge.
Does he become like an ant in this scenario?
I know.
Like he's really tiny, but he's like super duper strong.
Right, but but also
that's a very important question.
Does it matter for you to block a goldfish-sized George Karlaftis? Because then even if he gets to Justin Herbert, what's he going to do? Jump on his ankle and then go along for the ride?
Is he like an ant?
Is he going to just bite his ankle?
So I think
is he like Ant-Man?
To where like Herbert's getting ready to throw him, it's like, ow, what's biting my? And he starts slapping his ankle even though he's got the ball in his hands.
There's an answer to this question. If you're a goldfish-sized George Karlaftis, you just sprint through. Don't get stepped on. Don't get stepped on. Get through the line, go over, and then tie Justin Herbert's shoelaces together
while he's sitting in the pocket.
Yeah, he's methodical back there. You'll have a second. Tie your shoelaces together
because you are a George Karlaftis, so you do have arms and opposable thumbs.
Right. I think that's where I would lean.
I see. The thing is, though, if you have a George Karlaftis-sized goldfish,
that's huge and terrifying.
How are you going to get your arms to block that without holding? Because you're going to have your arms on the outside of that body,
Are you also
and
going
it's
to have
slippery.
a fish tank for him to stay in? Because otherwise, that goldfish is going to die.
I learned last
weekend
about...
he's in water, and then as soon as the snap gets ready to go, you take him out of
the water,
and then he just starts flopping around everywhere.
I like
block that.
There's a lot of friendly fire there, though.
Yeah, block that.
I think on a pass rush, I would prefer a goldfish-sized George Karlaftis. On a run play, though, I'd rather have the George Karlaftis-sized goldfish.
Okay,
you could eat up a lot of space there.
Thank God we got to the bottom of that.
Danny Shellfish.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, that's a great one. That's a Hall of Famer. Go ahead and mark that. Say that forever, Beards. That was a winner.
George Karlaftis.
Yeah, but I was thinking that a fish that's George Karlaftis' size would just eat up space, sort of like Danny Shelton, And then Shelton sounds sort of like shellfish.
Shellfish, but
Yeah.
Dan Shelton is somebody different, though, that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
but I just sort of think the way that a goldfish would carry George Karlaftis's 200 and whatever pounds would probably be. I don't think the goldfish is going to be able to stand upright.
The
Sort of what I'm
goldfish is
saying.
going to be very top heavy.
I think the goldfish is
It's
going to
gonna
cover a
fall
lot
right
of
over.
space in front.
All right.
Across the line of scrimmage.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back on the other side. So, do we want to do the
What if
Sean
they're
Payton-
playing in Chicago in a monsoon? Go ahead.
Do we want to do the Sean Payton story about Patrick Mahomes or the sad fans next? We're going to do
I
one
wanna-
here and then one after Braden Gall.
I think
So-
that sad fans is sillier, and therefore therefore should be hidden in the middle of the show.
Hidden
That's-
right in the middle.
Right here, right now.
So, like, right now on the other
post-pressers.
side.
That's my inclination, but like, I just want
Beards?
to hear both of these. This is Beards' baby. People should know this. Sad fans on Reddit, you and I aren't going to hear until it's live. Like, this is
Okay.
a Beards. So also you can direct all your angry emails and tweets and all of that to Beards. This is a Beards baby.
All right.
So Beards, you let us know. I don't know.
Nope.
When do you want to play sad fans?
No, we'll do it next. We'll do it next. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back in the zone debut of Sad Fans with one Beards. We do that right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
The FCC is sitting in the front seat of the van while Beards and Sad Fans on Reddit is sitting in the back of the van.
Yes.
And Beards is like, don't you touch him. Do not touch your brother. And Beards is just leaning over with his pointer finger just half an inch away from Sad Fans' face. I'm not touching him. Beards, don't you touch him. It's like, I'm not touching. There are 74 bleeps in here, but I'm not touching it.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Braden Gall coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Some college football. Our college football insider from Athlon, ESPN Radio. You hear him on Saturdays during College Game Day, the Fringe Element, and the Football Show podcast as well. Braden Gall will talk with him about the weekend that was of college football with the local teams. K-State, KU impressive, Mizzou embarrassing, and what happens moving forward, and Nebraska paying the $7.5 million to move on immediately from Scott Frost, and what happens next for them. We heard the Chiefs with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Orlando Brown, and George Karlaftis. And so now we will hear, for those that have not heard, can you explain what we're about? Can you explain to me what we are about to hear on the show that I am handing over?
Yeah, oh boy,
trust.
Man.
For this segment, sight unseen.
To Beards, no less. I feel your anxiety right now because all I can tell you right now is that Sad Fans on Reddit historically was maybe the most beloved single bit in almost entirely sports history, but I never had anything to do with it.
You made a guest appearance once or twice, but that was for like Phoenix Suns content.
Yeah, absolutely. But the week-to-week NFL Sad Fans is a complete and total beginning to end Beards McFly production.
Okay.
Which should only make you more nervous.
Right. No, it's a nervous excitement like the first game of the season. It's like, I'm so nervous, but I'm excited at the same time, but I'm also nervous something bad can go, but it could also be awesome.
Beards, can you reset the original, the origins of Sad Fans?
Yeah, please, and then we'll play it.
The first Sad Fans on Reddit was birthed after the first Bengals game during Patrick Mahomes' rookie year, or not rookie year, but second year, where that game had gotten flexed to Sunday Night Football.
Awful for them.
And then the Bengals lost 45-10. And at some point during that game, I was like looking at, I think, the Chiefs Reddit and at their game thread, and then I just had the realization, well, why don't I go look at the Bengals game thread? And I found some hilarious stuff in there. I screenshotted some of it, put it on Twitter. Everybody seemed to like it. So then I thought, well, why don't I do what I always do in these situations? Read it back and put classical music underneath it.
Oh, beautiful.
And I bleep out everything that needs bleeped. I've been more judicious with the bleep.
Okay.
For daytime.
Yeah.
Good.
But that is basically what Sad Fans is. It is the collection of sadness and rage and complaining about the refs most of the time. Not today, though. They were good. That you will experience from the opposing sub.
So, which is this Arizona Cardinals?
This is from the Cardinals. It is always the losing team.
Okay.
Always
but
losing.
But always local though.
If the Chiefs lose, then it'll be Chiefs fans that we're going to hear from.
But it's always local. Like it wouldn't be like last night Broncos fans and Sad Fans on Reddit.
Occasionally, there's like an emergency Sad Fans that needs to happen.
Yes. Okay.
But for the most part, it is just the game that the Chiefs were involved in.
You could have, at some point, if we would have started it earlier, maybe a Nebraska one could have been justified in week 0. But mostly it's just NFL season, and sometimes it's Chiefs fans. Our mics will be on. So people can hear how we are reacting to what's going on.
All right.
But Beards keeps a pretty tight edit here as well. So you and I get to be passengers, and Beards gets to, I guess, host the zone here.
You know what? Jesus, take the wheel. Beards, take it away.
And now, a list of things that Arizona Cardinals fans said on Reddit. I'm so sad, LOL. Zaven covering McCall Hardman. Please kill me. Turn on the game, they're already at our 40. Seems right. So worried about our quarterback room, forgot we had a bad run defense. Jesus Christ, the whole NFL figured out you don't blitz Mahomes except Vance. Whew, yeah, I'm sure the Cards will have no problems matching that kind of drive on offense today. That's our $20 million left tackle that can't hold off a linebacker. LMAO.
These are chronological.
Comment. Be nice to see the game. Still watching the Steelers until they switch over.
As you know.
Reply. Count your blessings. We look like our entire stadium is filled with Chiefs fans. Is this the worst GM coaching staff combo ever assembled? Cards are just like the great value versions of the Chiefs. Damn, I thought we'd lose, but I didn't think it'd be like this. LOL, and we thought the Rams got blown out on Thursday. They're playing backyard football. Successfully, LMAO. Hopefully the defense offseason approach never gets used again. OMG, I waited 8 months for this. This life is painful. Here to stop alcoholism. Only drink when the Cards stop a pass attempt. We could be Packers fans right now and cheering for a senior citizen. Is 4:30 too early to start chugging an entire bottle of bourbon? I'm asking for a friend. Comment. Crowd needs to start booing soon. Reply. Bold of you to assume we'd be able to hear the boos over the Chiefs fans. Nice. All I want for Christmas is a f***ing defensive stop. I just want to enjoy Sundays. The plural of chief should be Chiefs. Offensive line? More like offensive line. It's cool, guys. If we suck, our draft picks are worth more, so we can trade them for dudes nobody wants anymore, like it's Madden 2008. Comments. Maybe I should just stop watching and just enjoy the rest of my day. Reply. We both know you're going to get hurt, and you're going to like it. I have to do grad school work, but the need to get drunk to finish watching this game is taking over for me. Can we please sign some overweight soccer goalies to play on our D-line? Please? First half recap. The Chiefs are a good organization, and the Cardinals are a bad organization. Maybe Cliff should have a study clause on how to call plays. LOL, and I thought it was dumb that the Cards were 6.5-point underdogs at home. Man, I'm stupid. Good thing our team was rested for the game. All that money and draft capital spent on pass catchers just to spam 5-yard in-breakers to Greg Dortch. Is it too late to put the study clause back in? LOL. Hey, maybe, and I'm a couch coach, but maybe, just maybe, we don't let Kelsey be open. Remember when we were really calling Simmons the eraser? How the f*** is Kelsey wide open on a short route? How much do y'all want to bet that Kyler is going to put together a few good drives far too late to make it seem like it wasn't actually as bad as it was? A Pro Bowl defense showed more life than this abomination. Chiefs never should have let Tyreek Hill go. Their offense obviously can't function without him. If we scored 1 point per play the rest of the way, we'd still lose. Sad face emoji. I'm ready for Mike McCoy to take off his Cliff face mask. Can't wait to see this team in the mid-season Hard Knocks. Ha ha.
Oh, yeah.
They forgot to drink Michael's secret stuff at halftime. SMH. Never forget that Keim hired Cliff after his 3rd straight losing season with Texas Tech. Kyler, garbage time, Murray. CP3 with a huge 3, cutting the lead to 42 vibes.
Rude.
All right, Kyler and Cliff, you need 40 points in 7 minutes. Better keep playing it safe. Wouldn't want to get embarrassed out here. Well, we were getting embarrassed, so the Raiders game is on instead. Good call. Joke's on you guys who were forced to change to the Raiders game. My broadcast is local, and I'm forced to continue watching this pain. Hey, guys. I just woke up from a 10-month coma where we were 10-2 and a Super Bowl favorite. I take it we're on the same track? This season's going to be brutal. Remember, our GM traded up for Josh Rosen. That was like watching Alabama getting to beat up on one of those FCS teams. Defense bad. Comments. We lost to the Super Bowl champions and Super Bowl contenders, and our fans act like we're the Lions. Reply. We lost to them too. Guys, what's important is that Kyler had 4 to 5 flashy, amazing plays. Not that we won the game. Y'all gotta get your priorities straight. Oh my God, this season is already over. And now, the runner-up of things that Cardinals fans said on Reddit.
There's a winner every week.
Chiefs are that they don't put Andy Reid in at quarterback next drive. And now, the winner of things that Arizona Cardinals fans said on Reddit. Just take me out behind State Farm Stadium and put me out of my misery.
Whatever they're calling it. Nice. Oh, it's nice to hear the other fans. doing that.
It's really fun to get to hear what the Chiefs make other fan bases feel.
That's right. I can't imagine what it was like to be on the other side of that. But yes, the season's already over.
Good work, Beards. It was good to have that back in our lives.
They were overreacting very quickly in that one.
I did like the woke up from a 10-month coma, 10-2 Super Bowl projection. I'm assuming we're on the same path.
I like to give my winner if it doesn't jive with Beards'. I think that would have been on my medal stand.
The
Putting
10-2 one.
Yeah. I like the 10-month. I like the 10-month coma thing.
There was a comment underneath that one I didn't include because I didn't want to hurt you too bad. Where it was then also, oh, and hey, the Suns are going to be in the finals again. Isn't that great? And then they got beat by Luka by 40-some points at home in Game 7.
Yeah,
but at least everything in the organization is fine.
Yeah, at least the owners. Not the literal worst.
Yeah, at least the owner runs a really tight ship.
At least Arizona has the Diamondbacks.
That's exactly that. That's what is that what they're saying around there?
That's what they're saying.
Well, at least we got the Diamondbacks, though.
Look, I mean, Paul Goldschmidt's.
How are the Coyotes?
Oh, so bad. They're so bad, man.
The Coyotes coming there too.
But at least you got the Coyotes. That's good. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Briscoe, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, what'd you learn this weekend, Brisco?
Wearing the beards as a bleep head.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll talk with Braden Gall coming up at 1 o'clock. Big weekend for KU and K-State this past weekend. A big weekend for KU coming up on Saturday against Houston, 3 o'clock on ESPNU, and right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. They are 10-point dogs right now, and curious to see what side Braden is thinking he will be on. I think it's right around there. I do think there's a chance for KU to go in there and have it, a closer game at the end. But I worry about two-way backdoor covers. So, like, if KU's down 13, they score a touchdown late. Oh, great. If I take KU plus 10, that works. But if KU's down, 7 or 6, and Houston gets a late touchdown to ice the thing, and it's like, I had KU plus 10. That was the right side. It was a closer game, and yet you still lose. So I may tease it up to 16, just because I think there's a chance it'll be closer, and therefore it kind of eliminates some backdoor cover from Houston, but it also increases the odds of a backdoor cover for KU, even if they're down late. But they don't stop fighting. They continue to fight back, and that's, so I think is there a better chance of KU backdoor covering this year than some others because they just simply don't stop. So good on them for that.
Yeah, you can continue to keep swinging, and all of a sudden now, maybe you are looking in that garbage time. You're down 14, but you have the ball in a minute. There is legitimately something to be learned from what happens for Jalen Daniels in a 2-minute drive at the end of a game. You're not playing for the win, but maybe you are actually playing to just get it down another 7 and try to create some more momentum, not even within the flow of the game, but within the program. I mean, that seems to me like it could be the heartbeat of this season for KU. I was looking at their schedule earlier also. I don't know how many games down the line you can get before you would start saying, okay, they're going to get blown out here. Which again, you couldn't get one game deep without saying that in the last 5 years.
I didn't have them beating West Virginia. So when I was looking at the over 2.5 and took the over 2.5, Saturday was a loss to West Virginia. So I feel really good about the over 2.5.
Yeah, for sure.
In the fact that was a win. So, yeah. By the way, I love bleep you Patrick Mahomes on the field. The counting, him getting hit late with the Jody Fortson touchdown and somebody saying something and him looking up and saying 4 touchdowns already. And I love the aw shucks, gee golly me reaction to it when asked I don't remember doing that. I mean, I saw it on the broadcast, but I don't know what I was thinking at the time. I don't know. I just don't remember that happening. So precious. So precious.
It's football.
This SportsCenter is brought to you by Full Moon Productions. Full Moon Productions is seeking part-time actors positions for The Edge of Hell, The Beast, and Macabre Cinema Haunted Houses. Go to Full Moon Productions' website for details and an application. The story of the NFL world came last night on Monday Night Football when Russell Wilson returned home to Seattle as a member of the Denver Broncos for the first time, and then was pulled off the field at the end of regulation. Instead, the Broncos attempt a 64-yard field goal on 4th and 5. They take the L against Seattle, 17-16. The Royals return tonight with a 3-game series in Minnesota. Chris Bubich will be on the mound as the Royals look to improve on their 57-84 record. We'll turn to college football on the other side of the SportsCenter as Braden Gall will join us next in the Zone. I'm Joshua Brisco. This is SportsCenter.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
So I looked.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We head up until 2 o'clock. We're talking some college football today with Braden Gall, 440 Podcast Network, and Athlon, and ESPN Radio, and some podcasts with Fringe Element and a football show as well. Braden Gall joining us here in the Zone. Braden, what is up, man? How you doing?
Oh, doing well. It's already weird to be entering the third week, it feels like. Like it just goes so fast, and we've already got so much great football. Like, I don't know what the heck week 3 is going to do to top week 1 and 2 because, man, what a start to the season.
It's been crazy with some of the things that we've seen take place, some wins, some losses, some close wins by, some teams, and Nebraska already in a coaching search, which I thought there was a pretty good chance that would happen with the loss to Northwestern, but not just a couple of weeks later. What do you make of what's going on there in Lincoln and how we got here to where 3 weeks into this season, they've decided to pay an extra $7.5 million just to simply go away now?
I think the lesson here is don't claim fictional national championships. When you go 12-0, because clearly this is not about football. Like, this is no longer about, like, Scott Frost's ability to coach. This is about some strange deal he made with some supernatural force. Because, 11 straight losses or one score losses, like 5-22, 5-23, whatever the number is.
I think it's 23 now.
Statistically, that is almost impossible to do. Like, just like blindfolded, it's almost impossible to do. So I think the lesson here is, if you're at a mid-major school and you go undefeated, don't claim the national championship because maybe that's the karma. Honestly, like it's so strange. I think he could coach the exact same number of games against the exact same teams with the exact same players and probably end up with a very different record. And so that's not an excuse for him. I think they have to move on from him. It didn't work. I was dead wrong about the hire, as was like 99.9% of all humans who had an opinion on it. I think it's interesting that they didn't just wait, a couple of more weeks to save half that money. The advantage of getting out early, there is some advantage. Generally, that is the case if you're, if you know the guy you think you can acquire. If that person happens to be maybe taking a year off or something, then I think there's reasons to go do it. You certainly kind of set the bar and you sort of clear the path and you get to be the leader. But it doesn't, if you're trying to hire, and I think most of the best candidates, ironically, are all within like a couple of 100 miles of Lincoln. Yeah. If you're and guys that matter very much to your audience, if Matt Campbell and Chris Kleiman and Luke Fickell and Lance Leipold are 4 of the top candidates, which I would hope are, I'm not sure what being first buys you other than just sort of, being able to back channel with an agent and maybe get no's or yeses or maybes ahead of everybody else. So it's a great job. NIL should help Nebraska in a big way. It's not really a surprise that he's been fired. 2 weeks is definitely early, but it's not that crazy considering what's taken place. I guess 3 weeks for him in theory. But where do they go from here? And I think evaluating what expectations should be at Nebraska, I think is a more difficult conversation moving forward.
Is there a message that was sent by firing him now instead of waiting a couple of weeks and saving $7.5 million, or Was it a well-off booster that was like, no, fire him now. Here's $7.5 million, and if you want my name on whatever else I'm going to give, you fire him now, and I'll write the check. I'm done with them because I haven't even left the parking lot yet, and I'm pissed, and I'm willing to spend $7.5 million right now.
Yeah, Larry the Cable Guy is going to do one extra show, and that's going to pay for the extra 6 weeks. No, I think it does, and this is what we don't know, but because I think it's a good question, and I think it's a smart question, but it depends on what happens from here on out. We know Nebraska has money. We know they have the resources to kind of do whatever they want, but we've seen a few programs around college football in the last cycle do a lot of things, like Miami and Florida, for example. Both of those changed the way they looked at football financially and from an investment standpoint, and they made a statement when Miami said we're going to go spend a bunch of money, move on from a guy who actually wasn't all that terrible, Manny Diaz, to go get Mario Cristobal, and now we're going to actually sort of change what we've done around football and invest more heavily. That's not necessarily what Nebraska is. Florida, for example, Billy Napier he was patient, he waited. Scott Strickland made his move to go get him, and as a part of all of that, he said, look, I need $8 million for assistants and analysts. I need $90 million for this, and there was a plan in place. And then there had to be sort of buy-in from the administration and from Florida. And Florida's not a school that doesn't spend. They are a school with resources. So that was part of the hiring of Napier and Cristobal was a lot of money. And so I think if there's a statement at all to other candidates, it is that expectations are still high and that we are still willing to pay for it. And if that is, or maybe we're willing to up the ante and invest even more heavily because, again, Nebraska was supposed to be at the forefront of NIL, and they should be with the amount of resources that they have. And frankly, the schools that should benefit the most from NIL are the ones that do not have great recruiting bases but have enormous fan bases and bank accounts. And in particular, maybe, the last 15 years turning a fan base pretty thirsty. Like the teams that are doing it well, Miami, Tennessee, Texas A&M, USC, what do they all – Texas. They all have in common is the last 10 or 15 years have not been all that successful. So Nebraska, to me, is the prime candidate for here's the new plan with NIL. Here's the money. Here are the resources. Here is our fan support, the sellout streak, like all this stuff. There's no reason. They still have the best roster in the division. So I don't think you need to go hire a flashy name. I think you need to go hire a developer and a culture builder. And if you hire one of those guys and you package them with all the money that NIL could bring, that's where I think you find a really successful Nebraska in the Big Ten West. Are expectations national championships? I don't think they should be. But could the expectation be I'm going to have the best recruiting class in the West with the most resources in the West, and we're going to win the West most of the time? That absolutely should be the expectation for Nebraska.
Braden Gall is our guest from ESPN Radio and 440 Podcast Network in Athlon here in the Zone talking some college football. All right, local game. Mizzou goes winless in the Big Eight this year, which is unfortunate for them. Kansas State 1-0 in the game that hadn't been played in 11 years or so. But the takeaway for me is, I didn't think the game would be relatively close. We talked about it a little bit last week, later on in the week in the show, just us, here, discussing in general. But I didn't think it would look like that, where it was just a dominant win for K-State. I came away really impressed with K-State, and I know a lot of people are like, boy, Mizzou looked awful. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they did, but I'm leaning more towards, I'm a believer in K-State. I thought they could challenge for the Big 12 this year, and they made a talented roster. I think K-State's better. I think they're more talented, but a talented roster in Missouri is Eli Drinkwitz is building and recruiting, and they made them look Group of 5 level.
Yeah, I think the defensive performance and just how dominant it was, and credit to Eli for just taking all the blame, unlike the guy who just got fired at Nebraska. Just take all the blame when your offense. And again, that's part of having a lot of young talent, right? Is you're going to have games like that. I think it's part of going up against a team that is so fundamentally sound and disciplined and physical on defense. That the weather, you put the weather into it, and all of a sudden it's like there's not it's a really bad matchup for Missouri. Again, I had The 7.5, I think we talked about it last week. Like the 7.5 felt very weird to me. So normally I stay away from that. I eventually laid the 7.5. Felt good about that. I'd like to see more efficiency out of Adrian Martinez, I think. But again, some of that could be weather. Some of that could be the delay and sort of the flow of the game. But you want to see a little bit more efficiency. But as long as you feed Deuce Vaughn the football and you play defense like that, you're gonna be in and or winning a lot of football games. So I think, Missouri's got a lot more. If you're asking sort of like the Alabama-Texas game, like is it more Texas playing great or concerns about Alabama? I think it's a little bit more Texas playing much better than we expected. Yes, there are some questions about Alabama. So I do think that's a sliding scale that sort of just, it's probably 60-40, Kansas State, them being excellent on defense and having superior playmakers that are more veteran and all that kind of stuff to deal with the situation. But there's a big chunk of that that's like, whoa, Missouri, like what's going on? And so I think extremely impressive. Odd. I mean, I think, 14-point spread against Tulane, I think is really interesting. Yeah. Tulane has won 2 games fairly easily. That's a very well-coached team in the group of 5. I thought that number was a little small. So Vegas is probably begging you to take Kansas State, which is intriguing there. So I think, veteran quarterback and Pratt that's got some athletic ability. So I think you're going to find a more complete team in Tulane, even though they are not as talented, nearly as talented, not even close to Missouri. So that will be interesting. A more veteran, maybe better coached, more, developed roster, but not as talented. What does that look like? I think a 3-0 start with another dominating performance and a cover of that 14-point spread, and I think you can start looking at Kansas State as a legit contender in the Big 12.
I want the local teams to do well, and my wallet would like Deuce Vaughn to start getting some Heisman love nationally as well, because I didn't get in at plus 15,000. It took a while to finally get here September 1st for Kansas. Being able to bet. At least it got here September 1st because we didn't know if it was going to be middle of football season. But I ended up getting Deuce Vaughn at plus 7,000. So my $30 can turn into $2,500. And so I would appreciate that, if that were to be the case. I mean, he's 4th right now in the Power 5 in rushing yards in only 2 games, and he's got 3 rushing touchdowns. We'll see what he does against Tulane. One of the things that I've said, Braden, and we'll probably talk much more about it next week, is that game in Norman on the 24th. Oklahoma's playing Nebraska this weekend. Kansas State is playing Tulane. Like you said, it's maybe a more experienced and developed roster, but it's still Tulane as opposed to Nebraska. And then they head to Norman in what will just be an enormous game. Just a huge game for Kansas State, the program. And I think maybe for my wallet, too, if Deuce Vaughn has like 203, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I'll do my part. When I go on the national platforms, I will begin to start, just shilling openly for.
Thank you.
Again, we talked about this on the Athlon pod at the beginning of the year. At the middle of the year, we did sort of like our preseason awards, but like a bunch of random awards. We try not to do just like player of the year or whatever. And one of them was heel turn quarterbacks, like which guys could end up being these heel turns, and like the Ryan Helinskis and Adrian Martinez is like the poster child for that. Bo Nix, guys that didn't have great careers, kind of never lived up to expectation, but now have a chance to sort of heel turn in their final year. So that kind of stuff. But we also had a conversation around who are the most explosive players in college football. And I like Deuce Vaughn was number 1 on my list. Like there's some, like Will Anderson's great, and there's a lot of elite players out there. But like if you're talking about just sort of jaw-dropping explosiveness and just who knows what's going to happen when he touches the ball, like that's Jalen Waddle was like the poster child for that a couple of years ago for me, and then he ended up getting hurt really early. That's the kind of player that I think about when I think about that type of explosiveness. So I love the bet. I love the gamble there, and you have to put up numbers like in the games you win easily that nobody's really watching. You just sort of have to stack. You have to stack numbers, and then you have to deliver in the big games, especially if you're not a quarterback. So yeah, it's about. They just consistently hit, 140 yards, couple tutties every week when you're heavily favored, and then go off big when you're playing Oklahoma and Texas and Baylor. Although going off against Baylor might just be like 90 yards and a touchdown because that defense is so good. But But that's how you do it. That's how you got to do it. And if you get to the Big 12 championship game, there's no question he's going to get some love for that. So I like that bet, man. I like it.
Yep, we'll see. Braden Gall is our guest. I certainly want to get into the positives of KU and what they did, but since we're talking about this game, the flip side of K-State's dominance is how bad Mizzou looked. And offensively, it was something that Mizzou fans were excited about to see what Eli Drinkwitz can do, but it's been a lot of throwing the ball horizontal and, throwing the ball underneath and high completion percentage with low yards per attempt and low air yards per attempt. And Eli Drinkwitz said the right things, that it's my fault and all that stuff. But when I hear him say, we got to keep the noise and negativity out, this team has to stay together, man, that feels like step one of the beginning of the end of what a coach is doing with a program. When you're saying, guys, we just got to stay together in the locker room. That's a bad sign.
It depends on where it goes from here, right? Like if I rally, then it means that they're all listening and he still owns the locker room and they're all still together. And if it goes the other direction, then you're right. Then it's one of those weird comments that you look back on at the end of the year and you go, "What? Well, that was the sign that we all thought it was." So I think it depends on that. Now, I will say, a torrential downpour doesn't necessarily lend itself to large air yards per attempt down the field. Just to be fair, to play devil's advocate, but at the same time, you've got a quarterback who's making his third start, fourth start. You've got receivers and running backs that are fairly young and new. Like, I'm okay with them earning their way in. I think the big thing for Missouri has always been, and I think we talked about it this summer, what do they look like in November versus what do they look like in September?
Yeah.
I did not expect them to win that football game. I expected Kansas State to cover fairly easily. So, the outcome itself wasn't necessarily surprising or shocking. It doesn't necessarily change my opinion about either coach, either situation. How it happened is a little bit more concerning, and I think that is for the offense to completely disappear is a problem. And so again, some of that's weather. So I'm not jumping. I think that it's Auburn struggled in a huge way against San Jose State this past weekend, and neither quarterback was particularly good. Let's find out against Penn State.
Yeah.
So while Kansas State is clearly more in the Auburn-Penn State mold for Missouri, so that is a concern. I still want to see what they look like long term because again, I had the under 5.5 wins. I had this team as a 4 or 5 win team, but it was exclusively about development, growth, progress, and recruiting. And we're not going to really know the answers to those questions until the end of the year. Unfortunately, now it could just get so obviously bad that we don't need to wait until November to find that out. But I'm fairly conservative when it comes to overreacting to stuff. We only have 12 days of data for every one of these teams in the entire 365-day calendar year. I think I need more than 8 quarters of data before I start making really big decisions. Again, Nebraska fired Scott Frost not because of 3 games this year, but because of 5 years of failure. It's not, So I think we need a little bit more here before we make any rash judgments on Eli.
The one thing that was head scratching throughout the game was how Luther Burden ends up in those 4 quarters with only 3 touches. 3 touches. Yep. He got credited with 2, but he also had a target in which the ball hit his hands and he didn't catch it. But he literally touched the ball 3 times.
Technically.
I mean, I don't know how you do that with Luther Burden. That's amazing.
Bad.
So.
Yep.
KU,
I have no answer for you there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I don't even know if it's a question. It's just sort of a comment and maybe a frustration that's there. You got Luther Burden. Yeah, now let's see what happens when we use him as a decoy.
Right.
We got him out here just as a scarecrow to keep everybody else away from over there. Braden Gall is our guest. All right, KU goes to West Virginia, and they win that game. And those of us that had KU over 2.5 feeling pretty good about it as well. One win away. Already 2 weeks in, you need 1 win to cash that ticket. But they go to West Virginia and they get the win. And maybe, I don't know, if a win is a win and it's impressive in its own right, but maybe more impressive is the fact that they were down by double digits. They fought their way back. They took an 11-point lead. I mean, they went on like a 34-10 run. And then West Virginia comes back and ties it, and they still go into overtime and find a way, to win by double digits somehow. It was impressive in how that game went along, that Kansas of the past, down 21-7, doesn't fight back and take an 11-point lead ever.
No, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't consider that fluky, right? Like, I don't think that was a fluky win. I think the point spread is fluky because the old two score overtime thing just doesn't happen very often.
Right.
But I mean, again, you look at what this team has been. You know, Jalen Daniels started, I guess, against Kansas State with a couple of games to go. They beat Texas. They were very good and close against TCU. They were very good and close against West Virginia. He's completing 70% of his passes. They come in and now they've scored 100-plus points. They're one of 5 or 6 teams in college football that are averaging over 8 yards a play. Like, there's nothing fluky about what's happening here. And I think it doesn't mean they're going to be a 6-win team or a 7-win team or whatever just yet. But we've had this. I've been doing this now with you for a couple of years, and we talked about the hire of Lance Leipold being a perfect fit and a great decision and what he does to build culture. Then they find their quarterback late in the year last year. And it should not be surprising that this is what's happening. Tennessee Tech, okay, whatever. You handle your business, you take the W. But to go on the road against a West Virginia defense that played pretty well, that defensive line against Pittsburgh, that I actually think, I know people are kind of asking questions about Neil Brown. I don't have any. I think he's a good coach. I think this was to our earlier discussion about where credit and blame should go. To me, this is about Kansas being much, much, much better. This is not about West Virginia or choking away a lead or coming back or overtime or whatever. This is about Kansas and what they're accomplishing and what they're doing. And again, like, I'll take I had Kansas plus the 13.5. I thought it was one of the easiest plays of the entire week last week. It was one of my 6 or 7 bets that I post every Friday on the Twitter account there at Braden Gall. But I think, I've already got the plus 10 this week. So I don't think anything's changing. They've got a bunch of games coming up at home. They're going to hit the over. Sure, they've got a really backloaded schedule that's tricky and difficult and stressful looking. But they're going to cause problems, and a 4-win season is not only over, but major progress. A couple of wins in the Big 12 would be progress. 5 wins isn't out of the question for this team, and that would be a monumental step forward after the last 20 years in Lawrence.
Yeah, last one I was going to ask you, Braden Gall is our guest, is about that Kansas and Houston game, the 10-point spread that's out there right now. Both teams coming off an overtime game, Kansas winning, Houston giving it away on a 4th and 20 and somehow not guarding a receiver who picks up 22 yards underneath, but whatever. Not that I had Houston straight up. It's not a big deal. I mean, you like Kansas plus 10, but, I mean, how much of a chance do you give them to actually go to Houston, a team that people are looking at in the AAC and saying, you know what, you like them plus 10, so you think it's going to, be a closer game, but, come out victorious, or at least a couple minutes to go, the game is still in doubt to some degree.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I like the number. Like, I like the game to be fairly competitive throughout and for Houston to win. But with the 10, that gives me a lot of clearance on a backdoor cover. So even if the game isn't competitive and it's 13, 14, 17 points, Kansas is going to scrap and they're going to claw and they're going to fight. And that's what I like about this team and this coach and this situation for the Jayhawks. But I actually like it to be kind of what you're saying, which is I could see it being a 1 or 2 score game for most of the entire game, and wouldn't be surprised if Kansas is down 4 with the ball driving, and sure, maybe Houston gets a stop. They got a bunch of guys on that defensive front that are causing a lot of havoc, and they've played 2 really, really competitive and very, very close games, which also leads me to think that why would they stop playing close and competitive games against a team that is clearly confident and improved in Kansas. So to me, it's all just about, I think it's a really close game, and if Houston wins, okay. That ends a little bit of Kansas's momentum, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas is in the game and has a chance to win it. Again, this is complete belief in the head coach, the culture, the quarterback, and this new look Jayhawk program, and that's what this is. And Houston was talked about as one of the best Group of 5 teams in the country coming in with a chance to go 12-0 and all this stuff, and they have not looked like it. So I'm going to take the team that's riding high and is confident versus the team that maybe feels like it's underachieving to some degree. Clayton Tune's a good player. He's a tough guy to stop. It's going to be tough to win the game, especially on the road. But give me the 10 points all day with this Kansas team against the Group of 5. So even if it is a very, very good Group of 5 team, so it's a tough challenge. But is West Virginia significantly worse than Houston? No, I don't think they are. I think they're fairly similar. So.
Braden Gall, at Braden Gall, but also 440 Podcast Network, ESPN Radio, Athlon, joining us here. Braden, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the college football coming up this week, and we will talk next week when we'll be getting ready for K-State and Oklahoma, a big one down in Norman. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it as always.
Yep, always a pleasure, guys.
All right, there's Braden Gall again, 440 Podcast Network, Fringe Element Podcast, a football show, ESPN Radio, Athlon, a lot of places to find Braden Gall's work there. So, yeah, next week will be a lot of talk about K-State and OU. But also, look, I don't want to minimize Mizzou and Auburn because it will be a very, very big game for the Missouri Tigers. And we'll be talking about whatever happens down in Houston with Kansas heading down there to face off against a team that very easily could be 2-0. Again, you're in overtime. You're up by a touchdown. And Texas Tech has 4th and 20. And they convert, and you end up losing the game. I mean, is there a hangover? Is that one to where you can't really get over? I don't know. We'll find out. But I do like Kansas plus the points this weekend as well. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling as we head up until 2 o'clock. It's a Tuesday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
In 600 career plate appearances.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you to Braden Gall. Talking for college football. As we were talking with Braden Gall, Chris Kleiman was having his press conference previewing the game against Tulane. And, of course, his name being involved, or not involved, but brought up and discussed with the Nebraska job opening that's there now. He said, quote, "It's really simple for me. I can just say one name, Gene Taylor. Gene Taylor's my guy." Now, that ain't I'm not going anywhere. You can write it down. My word is strong as oak, right? But I think that's really what it comes down to as well. Do you like who you work for? Are you in a position where you feel like you can be successful? Are you taken care of, whether it's monetarily or given the resources to where you feel like you can win? And we know how close he is with Gene Taylor. So with him saying, yeah, kind of simple, like one name, Gene Taylor. So am I going somewhere else? That's my guy. So I'll go somewhere else and then be with that guy who hired me, and I don't know him from Adam except for the hiring process, and then I'm not, very successful, then he fires me. Scott Frost was, the prodigal son returning, and he didn't even finish this season. So, it's always flattering, I would guess, when your name is brought up with different jobs, especially like that. And if you're K-State, it's flattering in the fact that your coach that you hired a number of years ago has been so successful that Nebraska's job is open, and he is one of the names being talked about with that job. That's huge. Matt Campbell's being talked about. Lance Leipold is being talked about. Luke Fickell. So there's a number of names that have been brought up. I believe Matt Campbell may be the favorite in the clubhouse right now, or just the betting favorite. I guess it wouldn't be favorite in the clubhouse, but just the favorite at this point that maybe he ends up taking the job. But it's an expected, but I think also appropriate and a response that you hear and go, all right, it's not definitive, but it's pretty close. I mean, I got Gene Taylor. That's my guy. So am I going to Nebraska? Yeah. Is Gene Taylor going to Nebraska? It's almost like that. Is Gene Taylor going to Nebraska? Michael Beasley was going to follow Delonte Hill wherever. Right? I mean, I'm going to Charlotte because that's where he's coaching. He's coaching at K-State. I'm going to K-State. That's my guy. So I wanted to pass along that quote from Chris Kleiman that simple for me. I say one name, Gene Taylor. Gene's my guy. So there you go. 913-912-4810 is the text line. So Sean Payton was on The Herd with Colin Cowherd yesterday. And they were talking about a lot of football stuff, right? I mean, this is like 17 minutes into the conversation that they get to this. And they move on to, at some point, Patrick Mahomes' name is mentioned. So if you remember back last week when we played Bruce Arians, who was on a podcast, and he said that they thought they were getting Patrick Mahomes. It was the best workout, whiteboard, sort of go through all the schemes and everything that he had ever done with any quarterback. It was Peyton Manning level, and it was as good as he's ever seen in doing that. not just the arm talent, but between the ears talent for Patrick Mahomes. That was last week, Bruce Arians. And then they were shocked when Kansas City traded up because it was, they've got Alex Smith. What are you doing? Well, Sean Payton is on with Colin Cowherd yesterday. And Colin starts with just like the mechanics of playing the quarterback position. But then Sean Payton takes it in a direction that gives way more detail to what was at least put out there that the Saints really liked and wanted to draft Patrick Mahomes. This is about 4.5 minutes, so it's a longer story by Sean Payton, but it's worth every second. Take a listen.
Mahomes is interesting. Mechanically, when I watch Justin Herbert, every throw looks the same. He's just beautiful. He's like a logo. I mean, it's just the stride. It's beautiful. Mahomes mechanically can go a little sideways every year. And you can see Andy kind of reels him back in.
Yeah.
He's obviously a very coachable player because he'll admit, I'm off. My footwork's off. When you watch Mahomes from afar.
He's the best.
Okay, so like there's all these arguments.
There's no argument. There's no argument. I remember doing him in college.
You liked him in college?
Yeah, we watched the tape. We watched all the tape. Obviously, in a tougher setting there for him because he doesn't have the personnel some of these other teams did. And then after that, we send him 2 days of installation for like a playbook install.
Sure.
Study it. We're going to be in Lubbock tomorrow. We'll meet with you. Met with Cliff briefly. Took him into a room. Spent half a day, and he was outstanding. He was outstanding. Then we go out on the field. We throw. We work out. You know, it's windy down there. If you're throwing well in Lubbock, you can probably throw well in a lot of places, right? I mean, it's windy, and he reminded me of Favre. Because he had that, not just gunslinger, but he could torque his body and he could create speed on the ball without the feet having to be set or perfectly set. So some of these off-schedule throws he was very good at. And I remember when we finished, I said, Pete Carmichael, Joe Lombardi, who's now with the Rams, or with the Chargers, I said, look, we're going right to the plane. We're not stopping anywhere. No one knows we were here. That's our next quarterback. And we got on a plane. We flew to Tennessee and had dinner with a group of Tennessee players and then continued our trip, our journey, if you will. Flash forward to the draft, and we're sitting in that room. We're picking at 11, and gradually the draft is unfolding, and Marshawn Lattimore is dropping also.
Right.
And we really had good grades on him. And the rule of thumb is if you pick 11, you got to have 11 players you like. And pretty soon the 9th pick is up, and those two are still available, and we just need to survive 9. And so 9 takes someone else, and here we go, 10's on the clock, and those two players, we know we're going to get Mahomes or Lattimore. Buffalo's at 10. There's been a trade. The Chiefs climb into 10, and I turned to the room, and I said, here goes Mahomes. And we took Marshawn Lattimore. All right, so both sides win. But he was the best that I've ever evaluated coming out of college.
Wow.
And there's a gap before the next one. You know, he was that good. And so to watch him play is I think he does so many things well. The other thing I think he does well that none of us can realize is we can move parts with him. All right, and the mic ID changes, and his mind can keep up with it. Like Drew had that trait where.
So mic ID, what do you mean?
We're going to set the protection off of one player. You see Tom do it last night. You got the 4 known rushers, and then let's put 55 down. He's the 5th guy we're going to identify for the center and the 4, and so we're setting the protection. Well, a lot of guys are good with that from stagnant formations, right? But watch Mahomes and watch, the tight end shift over, get set, and we watch a double shift, and then he'll change it. No, over here, 54, 50. His mind operates very quickly.
We said that earlier today.
Very
you can
quickly.
See it at the line.
You can see it.
Going 1,000
I wrote on my
miles an hour.
report, the only thing I don't like with this player is the squeaky voice. That was it. That's a true story. That's the only thing I didn't like.
Sean Payton, quote, leaving the workout, that's our next quarterback. I don't want anybody knowing we're here. We're not stopping at a gas station. We're not stopping to get something to eat. Nobody can go, hey, I saw Sean Payton in Lubbock. Why? Oh, wait, are they looking at Patrick Mahomes? He's the best I've ever evaluated, and there's a gap before the next one. Like, I feel like at this point, it's like, hey, they drafted Marshawn Lattimore, right? And that's worked out for him. He's a really good player. I can't imagine they're sitting at 11 and going, we'll take either Mahomes or Lattimore when you're saying he's the best quarterback I've ever evaluated. Now, you had Drew Brees still, so if you're saying Lattimore might be the difference, we put him out there, now we can win a Super Bowl. I know we've got a couple of years left of Brees. This guy might help us get over the top and, win one with Drew. But that blown away that they gave him 2 days of install, said we'll be there tomorrow, and spent a half day and was just brilliant in there, and one of the best evaluations, the best he has ever evaluated, is Sean Payton. Except for the squeaky voice.
It's a great story. I believe it to be genuine, but also I thought of this when you were talking about the Bruce Arians story, and I'm just going to go ahead and be the hater here. Sure. It is so interesting that no one ever said Mitch Trubisky was the best quarterback they ever evaluated after the fact. It's crazy that no one ever claims their love for Paxton Lynch in the pre-draft process.
Man, we just love Josh Rosen.
Yeah, nobody ever. It's always been,
three teams.
We really believe that Josh Allen would eventually put it. Oh, we love Justin Herbert. We just didn't know we didn't think we'd be able to go get him. The Saints were there at 11. And they said, we will either take the cornerback who we really like or the best quarterback that Sean Payton has ever evaluated out of college. And they didn't call the Bills to see if they had an offer on the table. Come on. I believe that he loved Mahomes.
But here's the thing, too.
People are out there trying to get a little bit of residual credit for loving Mahomes before it was cool. And the Chiefs were the ones that loved him the most.
Agreed. I think there's also an element of, and he's not the coach anymore, but still has a relationship with the players of going, then they got Mahomes, and then we had to take Lattimore.
Right.
So it's like, that's what we wanted, and then everybody, the balloon just completely deflated. And Lattimore's like, well, bleep you. So there were two guys we wanted. Mahomes or Lattimore. I think Lattimore is interchangeable. I think whoever they took at 11, I think is an interchangeable name for there were two guys we wanted. And when Cincinnati, he didn't say Cincinnati, but Cincinnati took John Ross. When number 9 goes and both guys are there, we're like, okay, we're going to get one of them at least. You feel pretty good about that. The reason I don't know that it's after the fact trying to rewrite history to take credit is I remember getting made fun of on the air in 2017 after the draft.
Doesn't sound right.
I know. By friends, right? By friends who were Giants fans and Bucks fans and, mixed company of different fans. That a month after the draft, there was a story that I had read that Bruce Arians loved Patrick Mahomes the best out of all the quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And Sean Payton was enamored with Patrick Mahomes. And the war room for the Texans was like somebody kicked their dog when when the Chiefs traded up to number 10. And they were like, and they were stuck. Not stuck, but it was like, okay, we'll take Deshaun Watson. We thought we were going to get Patrick Mahomes. There are 4 teams that went into that draft thinking Patrick Mahomes is our next quarterback. The Cardinals, the Saints, the Texans, and the Chiefs. And I read that, and I was like super excited and everything, talking about, see, I wanted Patrick Mahomes over Deshaun Watson, and you've got Bill O'Brien, who's a quarterback guy. You've got Sean Payton, who's a quarterback guy. You got Bruce Arians, a quarterback guy, and you've got Andy Reid, who's a quarterback guy. All of them wanted the same guy, and the Chiefs got him. And I just remember being made fun of. It's like, if insert name here was drafted by the Chiefs, you'd be loving him up. I'm like, stop, man. Like, just I hate that part of like fandom and any sort of analysis of you might be a fan of this team, so therefore anything you say can't be trusted. I wanted Mahomes over Deshaun Watson, and then those stories came out, and I was even more excited about it. But it doesn't mean I thought he was going to be this.
Sure,
but I do think there's an element of they wanted him. Arizona didn't think somebody would trade up at number 10 because the 2 spots in front of them was the Saints that had Drew Brees, and then maybe Buffalo, but then the Chiefs. It's like, well, you've got Alex Smith.
Yeah, but it's like Buffalo could have been in the market for a quarterback there at the time.
Absolutely.
We knew that. Here's where I balk out a little bit. I do believe that the Saints and the Cardinals and a bunch of teams were looking at Patrick Mahomes and had him higher than the media was giving him credit for, because a lot of the narratives there where he was a project. I believe that the teams that got him in the building, on the whiteboard, on the field, all of that, left incredibly impressed with Patrick Mahomes. I have zero doubt about that. It would make you look really stupid if you weren't impressed with him at that point.
The Bears weren't.
Right.
So,
Apparently, yeah. To the point they had to trade up to 2 to make sure they got Trubisky and didn't have to settle for these
From
other
3.
bums. From 3 to 2. Before
Which
the
is
draft.
what you would like the Saints to have done.
Well, so here's the thing. I think that those teams were probably impressed with Patrick Mahomes to the extent where they said, if he falls to us, that's our next guy.
Yeah.
But that clause is very different than what the Chiefs had, which
Agreed.
was, we are going to go make him our guy.
Agreed.
The Chiefs traded up from 27, while the Texans were there at 12, the Saints were there at 11, and the Cardinals were there at 13. Those were the picks directly after the Chiefs jumped up. I think the Chiefs jumped because they had intel, right? They knew those 3 teams were legitimately interested. But there is a difference between saying Patrick Mahomes will be our next quarterback and we would take Patrick Mahomes if he falls to us at 11, 12, 13. That is the space where I would want to push back on Sean Payton a little bit and say, you didn't think there was a chance he'd go 10? You didn't think you might want to try to get up a little higher in the first round?
But if you're Sean Payton and you're going, I mean, do you know all the people that have worked out Patrick Mahomes? If the Chiefs knew the Saints were interested in Patrick Mahomes, and the Saints should know that the Chiefs were interested in Patrick Mahomes.
You'd hope so from the intel perspective.
And if the Bills never did, and you're sitting there and they're on the clock at number 10, and you're going, well, Bills didn't even work out Patrick Mahomes. So
Sure, right.
we're good.
So we're good, right.
And then the Chiefs trade, and you're going, well, son of a bleep.
Sure.
Okay, well, we knew they're at 27. They weren't in the conversation, and they've got Alex Smith. The hell? And that's when Sean Payton turned and goes, there goes Mahomes.
Yep.
There goes Mahomes right there. And then, oh, great, we get Lattimore, right? Okay, I have no doubt that they probably loved Marshawn Lattimore, right? And the Cardinals looking at it and going, well, the Bills haven't worked out Mahomes. The Saints have Drew Brees. Who was sitting at 12?
Houston.
I thought they traded up to get.
Oh, they picked 12. I'm not sure. I just was thinking about what happens if the Jags just pull the trigger at 3. Instead, they went into 2017 for another year of the Blake Bortles experience.
Yeah,
That really changed NFL history right there in Jacksonville.
They went Blaine Gabbert Part 2. The Blake Bortles experience.
Took Leonard Fournette and said, we'll keep Blake back there.
Yes. Let's see. Number 12 was says Philly. So Philadelphia was sitting at number 12. Who did they have at quarterback? Did they had already taken? Was that Carson Wentz? Or
Yeah, no, it had Carson Wentz.
Already had Carson
Wentz.
Wentz.
He was 16, I think, right?
Yeah. So you had Drew Brees and Carson Wentz.
was going to be his second year.
So if you're the Cardinals, Buffalo didn't work out Patrick Mahomes, and then the next 2 in front have Drew Brees and Carson Wentz. We're good, right? And if you're New Orleans, we're 1 spot away, and Buffalo didn't work out Patrick Mahomes. We're good. And if you're Houston, you're like, well, we don't have to worry about Buffalo because they didn't work out Mahomes. New Orleans ain't taking them. Philly ain't taking them. Arizona ain't taking them. Maybe we then trade with, Minnesota or whoever, like 14 or something after Arizona. We don't have to jump up that high until Mahomes was taken, and then Houston said, well, we can't leave this without one of the 2. We got to jump up to number 12 if Deshaun Watson is still there after the Saints. So I think there's elements to it, certainly, and also reading the board, reading the draft board and knowing what teams are doing. And you're right, credit to the Chiefs that not only identifying the right guy, but identifying the draft board and saying, once he gets past 9, if he gets past 10, he ain't getting past that. He's going to the Saints or he's going to the Cardinals, or maybe another team jumps up and takes him at number 12 because Philadelphia wouldn't need a quarterback there. We got to get to 10. And they knew that, and John Dorsey talked about it before the draft. They had the deal set up with the Bills that if Patrick Mahomes was on the board at number 10 or the guy they want was on the board at number 10, they would make the deal. So good on them. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You have no problem giving the credit pie when Marcus Kemp can't catch a bleeping football.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. When Marcus
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, tomorrow we'll be hanging out at Rally House in Belton. 910 North Avenue is the location there at the Rally House in Belton. We'll be giving away Rally House gift cards when we're out there, getting you set for the Chiefs game, getting the gear for the Chiefs season, getting you ready for some tailgates and things like that. They've got everything there at Rally House. And they've got gift cards that we'll be giving you showing up in Chiefs gear. So if you show up wearing some Chiefs apparel tomorrow at the Rally House in Belton while we're there 10 to 2, we are going to hook you up with a gift card. I'm not sure how many we have, so be listening in tomorrow, and you'll find out how many gift cards we'll be giving away throughout the show.
Or just
tomorrow.
be listening right now and get there pretty close to 10. I think there's a first come, first serve element to it.
It is.
So
it is a first come, first serve.
Bring some brunch. Bring me a breakfast burrito. I'll give you a gift card.
Is that right? Awesome.
I solemn promise.
Yes, and a handshake.
Hear exclusive